Madam Deputy Clerk, it is 7:01. I'm going to call this public planning meeting to order. Council, can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Moved by Councillor Gilliland, seconded by Councillor Kim. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, call the vote. Councillor Humphreys is not here yet. Yeah, we got quorum. Who hasn't voted yet? Kim, Thompson, yeah. Yeah, 4. Thank you. That carries. Any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Before we start, I read a statement. So welcome to Aurora's public planning meeting. The purpose of this public meeting is to inform the public and obtain public input regarding the proposed zoning bylaw amendments, official plan amendment, and draft plan of subdivision. For the planning applications that will be considered by council tonight, the following process will occur. 1, town planning staff will outline the purpose of the planning application being considered. 2, the applicant will be given an opportunity to make a presentation and address issues raised in the staff report or public concerns already filed. 3, following these presentations, members of the public will be invited to offer their comments or concerns respecting the proposal. And 4, either town staff or the applicant will answer your questions. I will keep track of the questions, and when I have several, I will direct them to whoever can best answer them. It is very important that the town receive the correct names and addresses of the individuals having an interest in the planning applications. Therefore, if you plan to speak to council at this meeting, or if you wish to be notified of any further council or committee meetings concerning the applications being considered, you must complete one of the green interested party forms, which Linda has up in the front there, and give it to our committee coordinator sitting at the front. Under the Planning Act, the applicant or residents have the right to appeal any decision of council on a planning application to the local planning appeal tribunal. But you must verbally express any comments or concerns here tonight, or submit any comments or concerns in writing to the town prior to council adopting an amendment. The tribunal may dismiss all or part of an appeal made in respect of an application. This public meeting is being audio and video recorded. Your name, address, comments, and any other personal information are being recorded according to the Municipal Act and the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. This will help our town clerk prepare accurate minutes and to create a record that is available to the general public, including the town's website. Questions about this collection should be directed to the town clerk, Town of Aurora. I will now ask the Deputy Town Clerk to confirm that notification to the public occurred as required by the Planning Act.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Respecting item 1, application for official plan amendment, zoning bylaw amendment, and draft plan of subdivision, Shining Hill Estate Collections, Inc., 306, 370, 434, and 488 St. John Side Road West. File number OBA-2018-01, ZBA-2018-02, and SUB-2018-02. On June 6, 2019, a notice of complete application and public planning meeting was published in the Aurora Banner and Aurora newspapers and mailed to all addressed property owners within a minimum of 120 meters of the subject lands. Also, on June 4th, 2019, 3 notice of public planning meeting signs were posted on the subject lands fronting St. John's Side Road West. Respecting item 2, application for zoning bylaw amendment, L&B Aurora Inc., northeast quadrant of Wellington Street East in John West Way, Part Lot 81, Concession 1, file number ZBA-2019-01. On June 6, 2019, a notice of complete application and public planning meeting was published in the Aurora Banner and Aurora newspapers and mailed to all addressed property owners within a minimum of 120 meters of the subject lands. Also, a notice of complete application and public planning meeting sign was posted on the subject lands. Public notification has been provided in accordance with the Planning Act.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Town Clerk. I will now ask the Director of Planning and Development Services to begin with the presentations.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We'll start off with the the town planner, Sean LaPena, who will provide an overview of the proposal, and that'll be followed with the applicant's consultant, who will provide more details around what they're proposing.
Thank you, David. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, and town residents. My name is Sean LaPena, and I'm the town planner. I am a town planner with the Town of Aurora's Planning and Development Services Department. Thank you all for attending tonight's scheduled statutory public meeting for official plan amendment application OPA-2018-01, zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA-2018-02, and plan of subdivision application sub-2018-02, otherwise known by its project name, Shining Hill Estates Collection Incorporated. The purpose of this presentation is to provide council and residents with information as it relates to the aforementioned application submitted for a development proposal at 306, 370, 434, and 488 St. John's Side Road West, the subject lands. The proposed official plan amendment, zoning bylaw amendment, and draft plan of subdivision applications have been submitted in order to accommodate the following: a future residential development consisting of 92 single-family dwelling lots with 50 to 60-foot wide lots each along a private condominium road, 2 landscape buffers, a road widening, an open space block, a stormwater management pond, and a natural heritage system. The subject lands are comprised of 4 separate parcels and as mentioned, are municipally recognized as 306, 370, 434, and 488 St. John's Side Road West. The properties are located at the northwest corner of the intersection of Yonge Street and St. John's Side Road West. The subject lands currently have a combined lot area of 31.30 hectares, which is roughly 77.34 acres, with a combined lot frontage of 185 meters and average lot depth of 402 meters. The proposed applications will be reviewed against the following provincial, regional, and municipal policies: the provincial policy statement, the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe, the Oak Ridges Marine Conservation Plan, the Lake Simcoe Protection Plan, the York Region Official Plan, the Town of Aurora Official Plan, or Town of Aurora Zoning Bylaw, and other applicable municipal plans and bylaws. The existing official plan designations that apply to the subject properties under OPA 37 are Suburban Residential, Suburban Residential 1, Core Area Open Space, and Supporting Area Open Space. The subject lands are currently zoned Oak Ridges Marine Rural General, the owner has applied to amend the official plan designations that apply to the subject properties under OPA 37 from the Suburban Residential, Suburban Residential 1, Core Area Open Space, and Supporting Area Open Space designations to Suburban Residential 2 and Core Area Open Space. Suburban Residential 2 is a newly proposed site-specific designation requested by the applicant within the site-specific policy area intended to be comprised of fully serviced single detached residential lots with frontages generally greater than 15 meters and areas generally greater than 500 square meters. This designation would still be subject to the applicable policies of OPA 37. Accessory uses and home occupations which are accessory and subsidiary to the residential use and compatible with the residential environment may also be permitted. The Core Area Open Space designation within OPA 37 states that these lands shall be comprised of open space, approved stormwater management outlets, and approved road and municipal service crossings. Other passive recreation uses may also be permitted. Development in proximity to these core area open space lands shall protect and respect the existing natural edges, provide slope stabilization, and if desirable and necessary, provide trails and open space management programs. Lands designated core area open space are comprised of 2 interrelated ecological elements, the riparian corridor, and the highest quality vegetation communities. The applicant has applied to rezone the subject lands from Oak Ridges Moraine Rural General to Detached Third Density Residential Exception Zone and Oak Ridges Moraine Environmental Protection, as well as public open space. Detached Third Density Residential R3 zoning primarily allows for detached dwellings, second suites, and home occupations with a minimum lot area of 460 meters squared per single detached dwelling lot. A site-specific zoning has been proposed with site-specific standards. A portion of the site is proposed to be rezoned to Detached Third Density Residential Exception Zone to accommodate the residential component of the development proposal, that being 92 single detached dwelling lots. As referenced earlier, the proposal in its current form is as follows. Block 1, a future residential development consisting of 92 single-family dwellings along a private condominium road. Block 2, a landscape buffer. Block 3, another landscape buffer. Block 4, a road widening. Block 5, an open space block. Block 6, a stormwater management pond. Block 7, a natural heritage system. This is the proposed lotting pattern to accommodate the aforementioned 92 single detached dwelling lots along a private condominium road. A first submission has been circulated and reviewed. The following items require further discussion. Overall suitability and appropriateness of proposed development, the zoning provisions proposed, conformity to the Lake Simcoe Protection Plan, conformity to the Oak Ridges Marine Conservation Plan, compatibility in comparison to character of existing area, considerations with respect to any existing environmental features, stormwater management. Planning staff's summarized comments from the public are as follows. The entrance leading to the site is on a steep grade portion of St. John's and is potentially unsafe. Safety has been raised as a concern. Traffic along St. John's Side Road West. Active transportation in the way of bicycle lanes, trails, and sidewalks need to be considered as part of this development. Preservation of green space. Staff will undertake a technical review of the subject applications, addressing the outlined matters, as well as comments received at this evening's public planning meeting. A comprehensive report with recommendations and options will be presented for consideration and direction at a future general committee meeting. The applicant is in attendance this evening and will be making their own presentation. They will also be available to answer any questions anybody may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Now I'll ask the applicant to come forward. Mr. Givens, thank you for coming.
Your Worship, members of council and staff, thank you for allowing me to make this presentation. The proposal that the staff have explained to you, I think is going to be a very attractive addition to the town. I'm going to walk you through a lot of the attributes of the site that we're feeling that are a big part of the way we've had to lay this site out. I've got to get this clicker working here. Is it this one? There we are. This property that you see outlined in yellow is part of a larger property that is owned by the same owner. It extends into Newmarket. As you can see, it's a combination of wooded areas and fields. What we're proposing in this phase is what we're calling phase 2, because there's already a site that has been developed or is being developed in the north end of the green area that you see there. Whoops. I've got to remember how to do my clicker here. Now I've really taken us backwards. Having trouble with your clicker here. Yeah. This is the plan. I'm going to have to go backwards in a minute. This is the plan that we originally submitted. It's not dramatically different from the one that we're asking you to consider. But when we submitted it and it was circulated, we had 2 entrances coming in off St. John's. When the region reviewed it, they asked us to reduce that to 1 entrance. And I know you have a record of a concern by a resident about the steep grade and the danger. I think in moving the entranceway to a single entrance, we have already addressed that concern, because we're putting the entrance now where there is a visibility to take care of the concern that we heard from that resident. But the plan itself is condominium form, 50 and 60-foot lots, all intended to be a part of a complex that allows for people to, in this community in Newmarket, to stay in the town, but buy something that they can lock up and leave and go down to their place in Florida or something like that. It's a type of housing that we've heard is desired. It's a kind of location that suits that desire. With the wonderful backdrop of the wooded area, we think that it's going to be a very attractive place to live. The work that we've done has shown us where the development features are. The Conservation Authority has walked this property and staked it. You can see that there's some fields north of what we're showing in yellow. Those are fields that are below what we would consider to be a developable limit, and we have respected that. And all of that land that you see to the north, which is private today, will come into public ownership. And I know there's an interest in your staff and probably yourselves in seeing how we would deal with trails. We would be looking at your input to provide guidance on how to locate trails through this area. It's a very attractive wooded area, and it will extend to the north up through Newmarket, tie into the trail system that is being planned for that area. So the overall presentation that I've got is really not to duplicate what the staff have already provided you with, just to summarize some of the thinking that we've got. The 92 single-family lots that we are proposing, 50 and 60-foot lots, could accommodate bungalow-type housing or two-story housing. There's an interest in the market for some downsizing. We think that this type of property would be excellent for that. One of the things I wanted to point out when I was talking about the fields, though, is that you can see in your existing official plan that green area that's shown with the roads running through it north of our red line. All of that in your official plan was anticipated to be developed. We won't be developing it. Those lands are below what we consider to be a developable limit. They will come into the ownership of the municipality. Your official plan redesignation that we're asking for is just for the purple area. To change the limitation that we could only have 70 foots, we'd like to go down to 50 foots, and we are having a balance of 50 and 60-foot lots. The zoning's pretty straightforward. Your staff already identified that. What we're asking you to consider here is the amendment to allow for those lots to be reduced to 50 or 60 feet and the size of the lots to be 5,000 meters square. I think that's still a very large lot in today's market. I think it's going to be a nice addition to the quality of the housing that's already in this area. And the zoning's pretty straightforward. It's the type of zoning you've used before elsewhere in this municipality. Nothing unusual being requested there. So my presentation, I said, was going to be brief. I hope I've kept my word on that, and look forward to any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Now I'll ask if there are any members of the public that would like to come forward and speak. Don't be shy. Welcome, and if we can just get your name, your address, and you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Pierre Geoffroy, and I'm at 353 St. John's Side Road. Thank you for the presentation. I would very much like to know what the impact will be for traffic on St. John's. I'd like to know if there's an intention to have a light where that entrance would be. We already have tremendous difficulty turning left from our side of the street, which is opposite to where the proposed building is. We see traffic now all the time. It's also my impression that St. John's has been overbuilt from Leslie to Bathurst, and now we're going to see additional buildings popping up. There's virtually no more green space. So for people like myself who moved to Aurora for the green space, we've simply run out, and we're just going to run out further. The other thing is we know that there are a lot of animals there because we live right across the street from there, and we know because we hear the wolves and the coyotes howling at night. I want to know how this building is going to affect that. as well as all the other animals that we see. Wild turkeys, for instance, et cetera, all the things that we normally see around here. I think those are a few of my questions, but I have grave concern that we are overbuilding and that St. John's, which is already congested, very noisy for all of us, is just going to be more congested, more dangerous, and more noisy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other members of the public? Welcome, sir. Just if you can get your name, your address, and you have
Yes.
5 minutes.
My name is Bill Reynolds, and I live at 25 Falling Leaf Court, which is our back of our property, is directly across the street from the development. So in addition to what was just stated, I will say that I've been a resident of Aurora now for 30 years, and I've lived in our existing property for 20 of those years. At that time, St. John's Side Road was a rough type of road. There was no heavy commercial vehicles, transport trucks allowed along the road. It was posted and signed for that. And I believe that back in sometime around 2007, 2008, a project was undertaken to widen the road. And then Brentwood Estates was built, as well as some other homes in that area. During that time frame, we actually, because our property is directly onto St. John's, the noise level increased probably about 3 to 4 fold, just due to construction equipment. But the dust was incredible along that area, and that I'm talking about the Brentwood Estate development area. They also required sewage work to be done that ran underneath a walkway adjacent to our home. And, you know, there was tremendous smells coming from the sewer after all of this was done. And the whole walkway has now cracked in half, and nothing has been done for probably 13 or 14 years. So these are just anecdotal type of experiences that we've had. We also have noticed the amount of congestion on the road now. If any morning, 7:30, 8 o'clock, you choose to drive eastbound on St. John's and approach Yonge Street, you will have a very difficult time trying to get through the lights. Likewise, if you try to go westbound on St. John's now, traffic will be backed up way up and over top of the crest of the hill down to where we're talking about having an entrance. So I think that although that is a steep grade, you know, I'm sure mitigation plans can be put in place to accommodate the traffic, but it is going to entail a widening of the road, and we would not be in support of doing that. I think the other thing to consider is that people always talk about property values, and, you know, one would argue that it would enhance the property value because of nice condominiums going across the street. But I know from experiences with MPAC, it actually causes us to now have to pay more money in our municipal taxes. And I would say that the property value will diminish as a result of having expansion across the way. So I can also speak about the animals, the flora, the fauna, and, you know, everything that we experience. And we certainly have heard the coyotes and the wolves. We actually enjoy that at night, an October night when you have the windows open and you can hear the yipping of the coyotes. Since Brentwood has gone in, we don't hear that anymore. We used to have deer actually in our backyard. We haven't seen a deer in probably 15 years now. So those are just some of the issues. I know that there's a river that runs through this property, and there's a pond down there. I don't know what's going to happen to all of that, but I think that that's an essential attribute of the property. I would also say that the amount of forest coverage is going to be a significant issue. And I believe that York Region has a lofty goal of 25 to 35% coverage in the York Region. Aurora is probably just coming close to meeting that scale, and if we're going to denude this property to build, that's going to affect negatively the overall plan for green space coverage. So I think the green space, we're hearing more and more about it with environmental concerns and global warming and how important it is. Is that my time?
You have 1 minute left.
All right. So I think that, those are issues that need to be considered in this development. I know that I've talked to people on our street, and no one is actually happy about this development. No one is looking forward to spending, the next 2 or 3 years with construction equipment, and it starts at 7:30 in the morning with stuff being dropped off of large transport trucks, and people don't use cranes anymore. They just tilt the bed and drop it, and when it goes slamming down, everybody in the neighborhood hears it. I would say that the dust, the noise, and everything else, we can no longer sit out in our backyard and have a barbecue or do anything in the evenings because the amount of traffic that's going by is just a constant buzz of noise. So I think all of these things, go to the fact that this is part of the green space development. The Oak Ridges Moraine. I think when Dalton McGinty was elected in 2003, it was on the basis that he was going to get rid of development on the Oak Ridges Moraine, and this appears not to be the case. And even in Aurora, I've seen development occur on properties within the green space that should never have been built on, and this is one that I would like to see not built on. Not to this degree. I'm not against development, but I certainly don't want to see it to this degree, and especially with the frontage, no trees, it's going to look stark. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? If you could state your name, your address, and you have 5 minutes.
Dr. Nella Masseri. I live at 38 Cliff Trail, and we're just west of the proposed development. My main concern, like the other two people, is the traffic on St. John's Side Road. I disagree respectfully with Mr. Given that having one entrance to St. John's will be a solution. The solution is having no entrances to St. John's. The road is extremely congested. It is impossible for me to make a left-hand turn in the morning. I take my life into my hands. Every time our children cross St. John's to access the south side of St. John's, I'm constantly worried that someone is going to die. As a former coroner for York Region, I have investigated many motor vehicle fatalities, and I'm going to tell you empirically, it's only a matter of time before somebody dies on St. John's. It is a very dangerous road, and adding another 96 homes is not the solution. It's going to make the problem 10 times worse. 2 years ago, the residents of Brentwood petitioned the town of Aurora to put a crosswalk at Woodland Hills so that our residents can have access to the south part of St. John's and access the riding trails. For some reason, the town refused to do that, and that will be another thing I'm going to bring up with the town, because now having these homes here is just going to make the problem a million times worse. I want my son to be able to cross St. John's safely on his bike. I don't want to have to worry every time he crosses that road that he's going to get killed. The other issue, and I'm assuming there's no representative from the region of York here, unfortunately. The St. John's Side Road, as you know, is under the municipality of York Region. The posted speed limit is 60. And cars are whipping by at 80, 100 kilometers an hour. That's another huge issue, is the speed on that road. People are not respecting the speed limits, which is maybe not the issue for today to discuss it, but it's part of the issue and the problem that we're dealing with on St. John's Side Road. So I'm not sure if the plan is to have a traffic light there. To be honest, I'd prefer that, because if there's a traffic light at the entrance to the subdivision, at least that can stop some of the traffic coming in that's coming west. But if there is no traffic light, it's just going to make the issue even harder. And it'll be a safety issue, not for the existing residents that live off of St. John's, but for the people that are buying in that subdivision as well. So I'm hoping the town will look at this and consider it, and also consider the safety and thinking about putting some crosswalks so that our children can be safe. As you understand, the town has a duty and a responsibility for the safety of its residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from any residents? Welcome. If I can get your name, your address, and you have 5 minutes, sir.
Joseph Avolio, 36 Aspen Leaf. I'm in Brentwood with a lot of my colleagues here. Not to repeat a lot of the predecessors said, I just want to, maybe I'm just not clear, but the lot sizes on this proposed property I think you had said from a town perspective, we're supposed to mirror and reflect the area. I don't know anywhere in that area there's 50 or 60-foot lots. Certainly not on St. John, certainly not on Brentwood, certainly not behind Southside. So I just challenge the proposal, even from the beginning, that there should be 50, 60, and at least reduce the number of houses, if anything, in that area, because that property values that they talk about is not that property value that we have in that area. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Welcome. If you can state your name, your address, and you have 5 minutes.
Marie Lorero, 11 Aspenleaf Court, at the west of the planned subdivision. I agree with everybody's comments regarding the wildlife, the protection, the noise. But because of the noise, we wanted to understand, is there considerations for giving us some kind of buffer or something that will protect the residents? Like someone said, you can't even have a barbecue in your backyard nowadays without, like it's pretty bad. I moved 6 years ago thinking it was a beautiful country road, and now it's a major highway. So I think this will definitely add to the noise factor. Safety issues I echo that, and certainly have seen situations where people are coming down the hill and you can't even turn into our road. People cut you off and almost crash right into you because you're turning. So it's definitely a consideration. 92 more houses is going to be a problem. And, you know, I echo, of course, about the conservation of the area. Can we keep some of the natural setting, like the trees on St. John side roads? And are we going to just level everything like we did in, you know, by Leslie? There's no trees left. So if there's any way to protect some of that, even on the road itself, to keep that feel of it's a country road, maybe that's a consideration as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Welcome. If I can get your name and your address, and you have 5 minutes, sir.
Okay, yes, Martin Bressel. We live on 47 Cliff Trail here in Aurora, again, just west of the development that's proposed. What I would like to raise is my concern, I think it was alluded to in the presentation, but also by some of the residents, is St. John Side Road and the slope of the street going eastbound, and, specifically eastbound. I take that road on a regular basis. We've lived in the area over 15 years now, and between the various weather conditions that we experience over the course of the winter, between icy roads and snow roads, I've seen multiple cars in the ditch as we descend on that slope heading eastbound. And while we recognize there's been an effort to try and reduce the entrance way from 2 to 1, there still is a significant danger, and we're just going to be increasing the danger by having more vehicles coming in and out of the neighborhood as they're heading out of this new development. So my concern is that we're significantly increasing the risk of accidents happening in this area due to that. I can allude to myself just driving down there in the mornings. We've had a lot of mornings with freezing rain, and I can't even drive on the road. I have to have one road on the soft shoulder and to make it safely down the street. So my concern is that this is going to create more issues on that front. When I head out anytime between 6:30 and 8:30 in the morning, as we turn left from Cliff Trail onto St. John Side Road, there's also a significant amount of traffic, and we've really seen a significant increase over the last 3 years specifically in this area. So I'm waiting there sometimes for 3 or 4 minutes just to try and get out of my neighborhood, and by increasing more of the houses taking place here in this new development, my concern is that it's just going to increase significantly as well. So I'd like to raise that as well. Our children have also been taking buses that have come along St. John Side Road, and as they come westbound and crest over the top of the hill, and the buses are stopping for that, we've also seen issues with the cars driving right through the buses with the lights flashing, and with very many close calls that cars are screeching with their wheels as they come over the crest of the hill, with cars just stopped right away. And as you come over the hill, that speed, we know cars are driving past there, at 70, 80, 90 kilometers an hour very, very quickly as they cross that hillside. So we have to even be careful when we're coming out of our neighborhood, and even sometimes heading westbound. I've even headed westbound to turn around to make a safe turn on that front. So by adding these extra 92 homes with the vehicles coming out, my concern is that it's going to be even more dangerous for the people in the area. And so it's a safety for the many people that are living existingly in the area, but the many people traveling along that road, that I think this development will pose a significant risk to our local town here. So that's my concern with this development.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Welcome. If we can get your name and state your address, and you have 5 minutes, ma'am.
Thanks. My name is Amy Bobak, and I'm at 21 Aspenleaf Court, part of the Brentwood Estates. So I would just like to echo the comments made by the other members of the public. Firstly, I'd like to talk about the safety of the increased traffic that's going to be running on St. John's Side Road. I've actually seen, I've only been here for 1 year, and I've seen teenagers and young people crossing the road and going through my property, which just tells me that, you know, how safe are these kids going to be when there's going to be proposed road widening and increased traffic to the area. So I would like to know more details on how you're going to develop the area, and if you're going to provide a safe place for people wanting to go south or north of St. John's Side Road. Also, I would like to know the impact on the road widening has on the existing trees, because my property backs right up onto St. John's Side Road. It fronts onto 21 Aspenleaf, but I know there is some area of the property that's already been allotted for road widening, but I would like to know specific details on whether you are on the amount that you're going to widen the road, and the design. So if there's going to be any, I guess, flattening of the road, or if there's going to be any sidewalks put down, or if there's going to be any more traffic lights. And I would like to know if the trees are going to be affected, as cutting down the trees that are right next to my property will decrease the privacy and increase the noise and pollution to the properties that back up onto St. John's Side Road. And also, just finally, I'd like to say that in the morning, if there's an increased amount of traffic coming, they'll all be going towards the highway or going to try and access Bathurst. So it would be very difficult for me to turn left onto St. John's Side Road in the morning, say if I need to access Yonge Street. So I would like that to be part of the considerations of development. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Welcome. You have 5 minutes, and if we can get your name and state your
Good
address,
evening.
please.
My name's Gordon Logan. I live at 5 Aspenleaf Court in Aurora. I would like to echo my residential colleagues and what they've said about safety, but the one thing I would like to point out is the issues of safety that have already been raised are only going to be exacerbated by 91 further homes. And if you think of where the current residents are, the only way we can get to services walking in Aurora is to cross St. John's Side Road. It's a 60-kilometre-an-hour road. So we take our lives in our hands to use the trails. We take our lives in our hands to walk across the street, to use the services on a bike or a walk. There's nothing in this plan, as far as I can make out at the moment, that allows the residents who will be in the 91 homes to cross the road in a way that's safe, unless they're very fast at 60 kilometres an hour. And it's not going to get any easier. So I'd like to know, there's no pathway on St. John's Side Road, as you know, that it's an open road. The only way I can get to any of the shops, for instance, in Aurora is to cross this, go down the trails, which are great. But the problem is I've got to get across that road, and if you've got children, it's very difficult. It's already very difficult. So I think with 91 further homes, unless there's a way of guaranteeing some safe way of us crossing that road, it's going to be very difficult already. It's already very difficult, and I think it's going to be even worse in time to come. And it's really just to augment the comments from my colleagues and residents. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments? Any other members from the public? Seeing none, Mr. Waters, I have a few questions that I pulled out. There's ones that I think that I can answer because they speak specifically to regional matters. Traffic lights, road widening, crosswalk, those are all regional matters. It's a regional road. As your regional representative, I'll ensure that I go and I speak to our commissioner at the region and look at what they're looking at doing. I can tell you from being there that it is not in any future plans at the moment. But I will definitely, I can see that there needs to be some type of crosswalk or some way for residents to get from one side to the other. I definitely see that. So as your regional representative, I will bring that to the regional table, and I will ensure that we can try to get something from that perspective to make sure that residents can cross safely. So unfortunately, we have no say on those matters here at this table. Traffic impacts.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Traffic impacts will be addressed through the transfer station study that has been submitted by the applicant. So such factors as whether there's a light required, active transportation in terms of bike paths, pedestrian crossings will be all addressed through the transportation study, which will be reviewed by the region of York.
Thank you. How will this impact wildlife in the area?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there is a natural heritage study that's been submitted with the application that will be reviewed by the region and also the Conservation Authority, and it's intended to protect the natural heritage that's there today.
Thank you. And I don't know if Mr. Givens wants to answer this one or not. Any buffer for the residents being supplied?
On the west side, there was the last lady that spoke was concerned about the trees. We have intended to protect those trees. The lots are deep enough that we would have lots of room for a house siting and not touch the trees. It was a very deliberate way in which we organized the plan. And the trees along the north side of St. John's will be protected by a 6-meter wide strip of land that goes beyond the road widening to protect those trees. With respect to the widening of the road, we're thinking it's about a 5-meter to 6-meter widening on the north side that's necessary that will go to the region. The region still have to confirm that. But I would expect that because my client owns all the land that's before you today, plus land all the way out to Yonge Street, that we have the capability to deliver a sidewalk on the north side through that process. And with respect to a signal, as you've pointed out correctly, it is a regional issue. We are expecting that that kind of question will be taken up with the region through their review, whether we can expect a signal in this location to break up the flow of traffic. If that happens, it would help with people's safe crossing of the roadway, but it would also give you a break in the traffic flow so that you can be able to make a safe exit from some of the other roadways. It starts to give you gaps in the traffic then because you're breaking up the traffic. You had asked about the natural heritage system and the protection of animals. We are not touching any of the natural heritage system. If anything, we are growing it because we cannot touch the actual feature, which is the trees and the wetlands, but we also have to add a 30-meter buffer to that. And that 30-meter buffer will be vegetated and restored so that it expands on the natural heritage system. And in talking with the Conservation Authority, they are supportive of that. They've made it very clear that from their perspective, that if we protect the natural heritage system, there are no natural heritage issues that they would be concerned about. And just on the wildlife, I live on 200 acres. I have deer, I have coyotes. I love them too. They're not an urban type of animal though. And even though some of them are getting quite bold and coming down driveways and that, we would not be changing that habitat. We would still have all of that intact.
And one more, lot sizes, how they compare to the surrounding area.
Well, there's got to be a context for this. We are working in what is called within the built boundary. So I will get to your question, but I want to give you the context. Within the built boundary, we're supposed to be doing intensification. So we have opportunities, if we wanted to take them, to do something quite dense here. We've chosen not to. We've tried to find a balance between doing something that would comply with that direction from the province and something that would fit within what I know to be the mood of your council and the residents. And we've ended up with these larger lots, 50 and 60-foot lots. Today are estate lots. They are selling just as a lot for $1 million or more. So we're trying to find a point of price that fits within the market. I don't think when you see the planting that we're going to do, the fencing that we're going to do, because we have to do some acoustic fencing along the north side, that those houses will even be seen from the street. But with respect to the sizes, I think we do fit in. I've never had to match from one side of a regional road to another side of a regional road with lot size. The only ones that I would be worried about were on the west side, where we kept a big tree buffer.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Givens. Any other members from the public want to speak for a second time? Or for a first time? Come on up. If I can just get you to state your name again and your address, and you have 5 minutes ago.
So I am Dr. Pierre Geoffroy, 353 St. John's Side Road. Thank you, Mr. Givens. I respectfully, I think that the amount of building that has taken place on St. John's Side Road from one end to the other has dramatically impacted us all who live there. There is traffic, traffic, traffic. When I leave my windows open at night, I hear traffic all the time. It never used to be like that. 92 homes plus the years of building and the dirt that we've had to endure at the end of St. John's and at Leslie. It's not acceptable, Mr. Mayor. We can't do this again and again and again. We've been here for 12 years. We've lived through Davis Drive construction. We lived through Yonge Street. We lived through Leslie. We lived through St. John's. Enough, I say. We've had enough construction. No more, I say. This is impacting us who have been here for a great number of years. I've been here for 15 years. And all I've seen is construction, construction, construction. All I've seen is destroying the beautiful fields. There are no more cows. There are no more horses. The hills have been taken away from Leslie Street. It's a disaster. It's a nightmare. And now what is being proposed is more houses, more destruction, more traffic, more noise. Enough, I say. Stop this project. No more. Thank you.
Thank you. No applause, please. Any other members of the public? Yep, come on up. If I can just get you to state your name again and the address. And
Nella Masseri, 38 Cliff Trail. I thank you, Mr. Mayor, for taking our cause towards crosswalks, because to me that's my main issue and my concern is the safety. And I just want to add, and I forgot to mention, that when the town approved the development of St. John's further east, all those homes have access to a safe way to get onto St. John's. We are the only stretch between Bathurst and Yonge that have no way to safely get onto St. John's Side Road. We're basically locked in. So I really feel that that's an important issue, and not just for Shining Hill development, but for us, even before this development takes place, we need to be able to safely cross that road. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public?
Hello, my name is Joe Lorero, 11 Aspenleaf Court. So just two comments. On the north side, because there is a lot of noise, an acoustic barrier would really be helpful, because they've done that in a lot of locations. I've seen it in Markham, and it helps the local residents. And the other issue, so we've talked about traffic light for the entrance, but if you think about it, all that's going to do is back up the traffic that's already free-flowing. So they're going to be waiting, and then you're going to have local residents leaving the neighborhood. When that light turns, you got a huge mess of traffic coming after that. So bottom line, the 2 lanes that are there now can't accommodate the existing traffic, and if you add all of these other homes, we're just going to add to the problem. I'm not against the development. I just look at the existing situation. I think it's not gonna make it better. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Come on up. And just get you to state your name and your address again in 5 minutes.
Yeah, again, it's Bill Reynolds, 25 Falling Leaf Court. Yeah, I think there's been a lot of attention about traffic, and that's understandable. I think there's so many other issues involved here, too. I mean, we talk about noise. We've lived through all of that noise for 20 years, so I think I'm a fairly good advocate to be able to talk about that level of noise. I know the construction is a dirty and filthy process, very noisy in its own, and it will carry on for at least 2 years, given the magnitude of what you're trying to do. The admirable comment that there will be a 6-meter buffer of trees. That actually is just a little less than halfway between, or probably a little more than halfway between myself and you. So to me, that is not a buffer. That's, somebody trying to placate someone. Now, we've talked about, putting up noise barriers on the north side. No one's talked about the south side. And, I think that there's a great number of people who would benefit from some form of a reduction in the noise. As I say, my quality of life has diminished tremendously, probably in the last 10 to 13 years based on development that's already occurred. And when we talk about the animal situation and the comment, there won't be any disruption. I'll just give you an anecdotal story. I used to have to come home from work along Leslie to St. John at nighttime. And when all of that deforestation occurred to develop the homes, I remember seeing raccoons walking across the street in a total quandary, not really understanding where their home just went. I remember another night driving home and there was a deer standing at the side of the road. It looked like it was lost because its whole forest had been, taken apart. So I'm going to disagree that this will not have any impact on wildlife. That is a major thoroughfare for animals traveling from the west of Aurora through, to the Nikita Trail area where that we know is, populated. So I do believe that there is a fair amount of wildlife. You can't see them in the day when you walk through there, but we see them at nighttime. We have foxes running through, our neighborhood as well. So, I think there's a lot of development, discussion going on here, and typically when developers come into town, they don't even live near here. They develop, they sell, they make a huge profit, and then they're gone. And the township will probably pick up the cost of everything from sewers and everything else that goes with it, and that affects my tax base. And as I mentioned earlier, I think this property is going to affect my tax base in the future because of impact, and it will also affect negatively the value of my home because of the increase in density population. So I don't agree that a 50-foot lot is commensurate with our environment. One of the reasons we bought where we did was we had the opportunity in our lives to do that, and we chose to. And the properties are much bigger. These will be small homes, and I think it's all based on profit, based on someone developing the area. So those are my comments, and I thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Welcome, sir. I'll get you to state your name, your address, and you have 5 minutes.
My name is Sidney Singroy. I live on 29 Aspen Leaf Court. My house has an odd configuration where the front of the house actually faces St. John Side Road. This spring, I had to plant 150 cedar trees, try to help to minimize the noise. It is a serious problem. My neighbors echo that issue, and I think something needs to be done about it. And I'm not against development, but how much and at what cost to the people who are already living there? I've been there for inception of Brentwood Estates, and I've seen the traffic just become so congested in the morning. I have to take my granddaughter to school, and it takes me about 5 minutes to make a left turn, and sometimes I have to run the gauntlet, or else I don't get to take her on time. That's all. I don't know what you're going to do about the widening of the road. The trees, currently the trees next to my property are about 2 feet or 3 feet from the ditch. So, and these are big, old maple trees. They're about maybe as old as, I don't know, they're old. And I don't know what you can do about it. You can take them apart, and that would not be nice. That's all.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? See, oh, sure. I can just get you to state your name again and your address, and you have 5 minutes.
Okay, no problem. Martin Bressel, 47 Cliff Trail. Just to follow up for this discussion, I appreciate hearing the background from the town and from Mr. Gibbons as well. There was a reference that the region is responsible for the traffic study. And if you could just give some context that we could understand when will that study take place, when will the results be available, and will this be followed up within a future town meeting so we can understand and what the implications of this would be. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public?
My English is not so
Sorry,
good, but
just get your name and your address.
Jin Tao Joe, 41 Cliff Trail.
Thank you.
Yes, I moved to to Aurora 3 years ago. And from China, we spend a lot of money and energy. Because China has lots of pollution, lots of the construction, lots of the that's inside, I think. And when we moved here, somebody told me that Aurora is a beautiful town. But now when I drive on the Wellington and Leslie, lots of construction, and lots of dusty, lots of the noisy. So why do we do kind of things like China? Just my question.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? I'll ask if there's anyone else for the first time or second time. If not, then come on up for your third time.
Nella Masseri, 38 Cliff Trail. Just to Martin's point about the traffic study, I petitioned the municipality of York 2 years ago. I believe his name was Mr. Ula. He was the regional engineer. I have his emails at home. I don't have contact information. They did do a traffic assessment, and they claimed everything was fine. I also had complained about the speed limit on St. John's because the posted speed limit is 60. When I complained to the town, they said it's a York Region issue. So I went to York Region, and for a while they put that those
the little radar.
The radar that tells you how fast you're going. And I'm like, oh great, they're taking this seriously. But then all of a sudden nothing happened. The speed limit on St. John's, I believe, is more than on Yonge Street. I may be wrong about that, but I think people can go faster on a street where we're crossing and our kids are crossing than they can go on Yonge Street. So that was done 2 years ago. I think it needs to be done again, but particularly pending this development plan. And I also had petitioned, York Region Police to try and catch speeders on St. John's, and they said they don't have a safe area where they can pull cars over. So just, if you ever want to speed, do it on a street where there's no little side area where they can pull you over. So the bottom line is the police really don't have a lot to help us with speeding and people tailgating you, and I'm turning right on St. John, somebody's right on my butt, almost going to rear end me. It's happened many times. So, but maybe I think a good thing would be, as part of this development plan, is to get another traffic assessment on St. John's. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Seeing none, I just got 2 more questions. Mr. Waters, when will the traffic study be complete, and will it be coming back in a future report with the results?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the applicant has submitted the traffic study. It is now under review Any revisions or any comments that are issued will be sent back to the applicant to be addressed. And then when we come back with a report, we'll have a summary of the results of the traffic impact study and any comments that have been issued by the agencies.
Thank you. And as far as, ma'am, your question, once again, I'll speak to staff at the regional level and look at possibly the speed that's there, the warrants that would look at possibly putting in traffic lights or crosswalks, and we can look at seeing what we can do at that level, and I'll ensure that we can try to get a safe passage for our residents. So, any other members of the public? Seeing none, so I'll close the public portion of this meeting. So, council, if you have any questions for the applicant at this time. Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. And I don't know if Mr. Gibbons wants to come to the podium. Thank you very much. Just a couple of things. You mentioned that the proposal is to have one exit out of this new development onto St. John's. Is there an alternative where you have no exits there and use Yonge Street or, to get out? I'm just wondering if we have none, because this street is incredibly congested. And I'm worried no matter what we do, it's just going to get worse. So is there any alternative design that you could use, maybe a Yonge Street exit?
We have looked at that. The lands to the east are, as I said earlier, owned by the same applicant. And the problem is that we would have to cross through provincially significant wetland areas to get to this property from the east. And we've always been told that if you can find another way to get to a property, you do that instead of going through a wetland. That's a provincial policy. So yes, we did look at it.
Councillor Humphreys.
Okay, that's fair. I'd love, if there's any other great solution to avoid getting onto St. John's would be really, really appreciated. The other thing is the lots going to 60 and 15, 60-foot lots. I hear what you're saying. I mean, it could be a lot worse, but I know that area, and the larger lots would be, in my opinion, more suitable. I know you're saying you have never done this crossing a regional road, but just in terms of the area itself, it's a beautiful area, and we heard about a lot of the green space, being lost. Unfortunately, it's just a shame. But if there's any way that your owner would consider larger lots, premium lots, and really sell it as an exquisite estate environment, I think would help the area very much. To me, it suits it. It's a beautiful piece of land, and I think, my personal opinion, they would do very well in that case. But I just thought I'd leave it with you. I don't know if they consider that or not. If we do have to use St. John's, you're mentioning about a sidewalk, that you're willing to put a sidewalk along the north side of St. John's. Is that what you were mentioning earlier?
Mr. Gibbons? We are expecting a road widening as required.
Right.
The region's official plan shows this as a future 36-meter right-of-way. I think it's at 30 today. And when they do take a right-of-way like that, it gives you the flexibility to want more traffic lanes, which I think is what the region's headed towards. But it also gives you the ability to do something above the curb that can be landscaped and can be a sidewalk. So that's what we've anticipated. We are still waiting for regional comments on it, though.
Perfect.
Councillor Humphreys.
No, thank you. I mean, anything you can do from that perspective, an enhancement. Also, I know it could be probably a regional issue, Mr. Mayor, but a noise buffer wall, anything of that nature to help the residents that are existing there. Anything that your owner would want to do to make it better for the existing neighborhood would be much appreciated. And I know you can get it done because you're good at what you do.
Thank you.
Tree protection, through Mr. Mayor. There's a lot of existing trees. We mentioned a neighbor that's got some old trees in the area, and I know you're good at doing that as well. Is there any way that we can do our best to build these homes with the existing tree line or trees around the area without as much disruption as possible? We've seen what happened on the east side of town, and no offense, but it's hard to look at that. So if there's anything you can do to keep the existing trees while building those homes, again, it's just the type of area. And you've seen south of where you are, where this property is, they've built in apple orchards, and those trees are still surviving. There's like 100-year-old trees in a backyard at where I used to live on Whispering Pine Trail. So it can be done. It's not easy, but just wondering if you were willing to do that in terms of tree protection in the existing area.
We certainly are protecting all of the edge conditions that we are aware of that can be protected. The problem we have as we sort of get into the details of this, that you'll see at a plan when we can apply a condominium in that, is that there's a significant amount of grading required to make this work, and that impacts our ability to protect some of the vegetation.
Okay. No, I understand. I do know, though, that you're good at what you do, and you could come up with some good plans. I know that. So I appreciate that. Through Mr. Mayor, I guess that's it for the more for
Questions?
staff. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Kim, questions to the applicant?
It's been already asked, but I'll ask it more specifically through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Givens. The residents spoke about buffer, and how realistic is it that you could create a larger buffer between now and GC General Committee should we go that route?
Mr. Givens?
If I could, Mr. Mayor, are you just talking about on the north side, a deeper than the 6 meters that I mentioned?
North and the west.
South. Are you talking about the south, Councillor Kim? That's what I heard from the residents.
Okay, at the south.
Thank you. North and the south.
Well, we can't buffer, sorry, I'm talking about the north side of St. John's, which would be
Yes.
the south side of the property? Okay. I think we're talking about the same thing.
Okay.
We can look at that. I had thought that we were protecting all the root zones with the buffer that we had proposed. That's normally what you use. You use the drip line to identify where the root zone is, and you work to that as a protection area. We can look at it again, but I think we may have, and I can show you in detail at some future time how we would do that. With respect to the west side, I was pretty clear, I thought, that we intended to protect that vegetation. It's quite attractive. It creates a visual separation between the existing community and what we are proposing. So I will look at that again, too, to see if it's sufficient.
Councillor Kim?
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions to the applicant? Seeing none, I'll just ask one. Mr. Givens, I just have one. Was there any thought given to looking at possibly 70, 80-foot lots?
Well, there was, and the reason that we moved away from that is we felt that the price point for those would be so high that there'd be no market for them. So but we didn't want to go down to 40-foot lots or something else. So we thought we'd hit the happy sweet spot in between.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So, council, we'll move forward. Someone like to put a motion on the floor? Councillor Gardner?
There are no alternatives suggested in this report. But it seems to me, and I know we haven't spoken to this yet, but it seems to me because of all of the concerns that we've heard tonight and the very great environmental significance of this land because it is on the Oak Ridges Moraine, that this should come back to another public planning meeting. If someone would like to second that.
Councillor Humphreys, second.
If I could speak to that.
Linda, you got that? Councillor Gardner, go ahead.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank you all for coming out tonight. It's important that we know what our residents think about our planning process and our planning applications. And we've certainly heard tonight that the noise and the dust. Now, we are in, this isn't a development area, so we have to expect noise and dust. I'm sorry, but the homes that you're living in cause noise and dust. But this is a much bigger issue because now you are left with the traffic and the noise from the traffic. And that's not something that's going to go away like the construction noise and dust will. Undoubtedly, the wildlife will be affected. It's not possible for it not to be affected. As Mr. Given has said, he'll do his best with the trees, but trees and development don't seem to mix very well. And we do have a lot of very, very old trees here, and trees are very important for the environment and to clean the air that you all breathe, that we all breathe. And so it's, I think on the one hand, it comes down to a quality of life issue for you and your reality on the ground, and you certainly express that to your council. Looking at the official plan policies and the zoning bylaws that are in place for this area, it's clear that this area was not intended for intensification of this kind. We have the SR designation is 2 homes per acre, and the S1 is 78-foot frontage, and the S2 is 49-foot frontage. So our planning policies and our zoning bylaws have not envisioned this kind of development. And so you're speaking to us about the quality of life, and now I'm going to speak about the environment. Reading directly from page 4, going back to the SR designation, it's talking about land shall be compatible with the existing estate and suburban residents on the south side, which we've heard. The SR1 talking about those smaller frontages of 78, and the supporting area open space is talking about, if this is not an area that's meant for intensification. So for those of you who are interested, this is Oak Ridges Moraine land. The Oak Ridges Moraine is a very important and very sensitive environmental feature. It does a lot of things, including filtering our water, and the Oak Ridges Moraine Act and Plan have been put in place to protect this land. And one of the reasons that we don't want this intensification in this land is because we want those larger lots and less impact on the moraine. I think I'm going to stop for now to hear what my fellow councillors say, but anything that happens on this land is not only going to affect you and your immediate quality of life, it's also going to affect the environment and quality of life for all of us, and I think we need to be very careful about how we develop the land that you are living in.
Councillor, I was going to stop you anyways because you're at 5 minutes, so thank you. Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. 2 things. For me, most important is if there's anything we can do, if staff can investigate to make the lots a little bit more out of executive state lots. To Councillor Gardner's point, I think it's more suitable for the area. I know if you look at it from a provincial perspective and happy medium, but for me, this area is just so special, and we're getting less and less green space where we are in Aurora, and it'd be wonderful if the developer would consider having more of an estate type lot, less homes, and I'm sure they'll do very well. It's a lovely area. That's something for staff to perhaps take back. The other thing is I am really concerned with the traffic on St. John's. I know it's a regional issue. Mayor will represent us. I'm happy about that. I know we'll have strong representation because of that. I'm not worried about that at all. Hopefully come up with some great things, including some other traffic calming measures. I hate to say the word speed humps, but you know, if this is something we need to do there along with crosswalks or stoplights, I hate to do that to the residents because they probably won't like that either, but there's some real safety concerns there. You and I, Mr. Mayor, know about that for using St. John's, right? I've talked about other things earlier, but I think really if we can get some of that finalized if possible. I'd really appreciate seeing that in the next report.
Thank you, Councillor Humphreys. Councillor Thompson. Oh, I don't know why I said. Councillor Kim, sorry.
It's okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All the concerns and comments that residents have made this evening, they're all valid concerns, and I can certainly appreciate them all. Those are the very similar concerns that we hear most months in public planning, because these are the common issues that all neighborhoods share. The only difference is the size of the homes and the density differs, but the concerns are similar. And I and certainly my fellow councillors appreciate all those concerns that were expressed, and again, they are valid. And I just want to provide some context, just so that everyone knows in terms of what we can and cannot do as a council. And in the report, as some of you may have read, is the overarching policy that guides planning is the provincial policy statement, which allows sufficient latitude and flexibility that will allow this type of build. And then following after that, you have the Oak Ridges Marine Conservation Plan, and that deems this area as a settlement area, which is buildable. The York Region Official Plan designates this as an urban area. And then it comes down to our official plan, which designates this as suburban residential, and that's where they're trying to do an official plan amendment to change it to suburban residential SR2, which Councillor Gardner reiterated. And then we go to the zoning change. So essentially what it means is that we cannot stop the development from happening. It's not within our purview. I know a couple of residents have mentioned that and recommended that, but that's something that is out of our hands. We just can't stop the development because the province and the other hierarchies within the province has deemed it that we cannot do that. The main thing that really that I see here is whether we're going to do third residential, whether you bring it down to 50-60 or estate homes. That's the area that is in our purview. And through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Waters. So the developer stated that they are willing to build a sidewalk on the north side. How likely is it that when they do so, that is it within our control that we can continue that sidewalk so that it extends all the way to the Brentwood community?
Mr. Waters?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, St. John's is a regional road.
Yep.
It's under their jurisdiction. We would have to essentially have conversations with them beyond the boundaries of the subject lands to extend that sidewalk. And there would have to be budget implications as well as that, whether there was sufficient money available to do that, and property as well.
Okay. Councillor Kim?
Thank you. And we budgeted within our budget 3 years ago to have sidewalks built on Industrial Parkway North, and so I think this would be a prime area where it would make sense to extend that sidewalk because you don't want it to stop just at the edge of that neighborhood. So the number one concern that I've heard today is traffic, and so certainly having a walkable sidewalk for children and all pedestrians would be a common sense plan in the future. And so I think that in terms of the density of the homes and safety and traffic are the two main concerns. And I know the strong reputation that our mayor has in regional council, and so I have confidence that he'll be able to push this forward. I know that we've had, I'm familiar with a couple of the residents who, drove the traffic management plan a couple years ago, and I'm in full support of pursuing this to ensure that traffic and safety is foremost on our minds. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Through to Mr. Waters. Mr. Waters, roughly, what would be the estate lot size or lot size in that area as it exists now?
Mr. Waters?
My understanding is they could be anywhere from a half acre up. The permissions on the subject lands are for half-acre lots and for 78-foot wide lots. Those are existing development permissions in the official plan.
Councillor Thompson?
So if council were to push for that direction, how many homes essentially could the builder, are we talking 50? Half?
Mr. Waters?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't have the number at my fingertips, but I suspect it would be less than half. Perhaps Mr. Given has that information available. I'm not sure, but...
Because I was just thinking, I mean, even if we were to double all the lot sizes as they are there now, I mean, that's essentially 50 homes. And so while I'm comfortable supporting the recommendation and bringing it back to a public planning meeting and having further dialogue and continuing the conversation about addressing the needs, I'm not convinced that a revised plan of 50 homes would satisfy the concerns brought forward by the residents or what was mentioned by members of council here. And so we have a legal obligation under the Planning Act to make a decision upon this application. It's well overdue. And so I think either you give specific direction of what you'd like to see from the applicant, or we bring it to the committee meeting and either accept it or reject it outright rather than bring it forward. Typically, when we bring it back to a second public planning meeting, is because we think we can close the gap, that there's a way to address the residents' concerns as well as the concerns of staff, and there could be some tweaking. I think that from what I'm hearing, there's much more than tweaking needed with regards to this application. And so I think council has a responsibility to make a decision on this application and not drag it out. It's not in the best interest of the residents to drag it out. It's not in the best interest of the applicant to drag it out. If you think it's close, great, let's bring it back to a public planning meeting. But if you think it needs significant changes, then bring it to a GC meeting and let's make a decision on this application.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Any other comments or questions, Council? Pardon? Councillor Humphreys, did you want to speak, Councillor Humphreys? Councillor Humphreys, second time?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, apologies for this. Actually, Councillor Thompson makes a good point that perhaps we should go to a GC from here. If it's will of council, I don't know now that this is on the table, do we vote this forward or do we change? Because I do appreciate what Councillor Thompson just said.
Madam Deputy Clerk, can we just make, if the mover wants to change it?
But it's up to
can we
the
change
mover.
it? But if not, we would have to vote this down, correct? If someone wanted to change it.
If the mover and seconder are in agreement, then you can make a friendly amendment. If not, you can amend, someone could make a motion to amend the main motion so that it would go to a general committee meeting as opposed to a public planning meeting.
Councillor Gardner, are you willing to make that friendly amendment or not?
Me,
that's fine.
but by what Councillor Thompson said, how long has this application been before us, and how much time do we have left to decide
Mr. Waters?
this particular application?
Sean?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, I'm not sure I actually understand the question. Could you please?
How long has this file been open and how much time is left?
Oh, so this is a 2018 application. So in terms of how much time is left
We have to make a decision within a certain amount of time.
Yeah. Councillor Gardner, is it already past the appeal period?
That's it. It has, yes.
Yes.
Under legal considerations in the report.
Yeah, it's in the report, Councillor.
Thank you. So then it does it.
That means that the applicant could appeal it at this period if they felt they needed to.
So what help does it do to go to a GC?
If you wanted my comments, I would suggest that if we were to move forward to a GC, it would show the applicant that we're at least willing to move forward and work with them and get to that GC point, and maybe they will not move forward with an appeal, whereas if we went to public planning, they might just say, well, you know what, forget it, we're just going to appeal it at this point.
And what happens if it's refused at a public planning meeting?
Well, then I would assume that the applicant would appeal it at that point, but at least we've put in a decision. We've made a decision. And I think that's what Councillor Thompson's getting at, is that we have a legal obligation to make a decision on this application.
Perhaps when everybody's spoken, I could speak for the second time and then we could decide.
Oh, I thought you were speaking for a second time right now, so you can just continue.
No, I'm trying to answer the question of how much time do we have.
Sure. Did you want to make that friendly
No.
amendment? No. So you want to leave it as is?
until I get my second chance to speak.
Well, you might not, because Councillor Humphreys might put an amendment to this. So if you'd like to speak a second time, I would suggest you take that now.
Thank you. And this is really more to council than to the residents, but I hope you'll find it interesting as well. If you look at what we have in our official plan is our main planning policy. It calls this, it designates this suburban residential, SR, suburban residential SR1, but the two important parts are core area open space and supporting area open space. And in the bylaw, there's something else. So if we look in our report at what it says, why we've called this core area open space, it says that the only thing that's allowed in core area open space is open space, approved stormwater management, roads, municipal service crossings. And other than that, everything else is to remain in its natural state and only passive recreation. Excuse me, I don't appreciate that. And with only passive recreation. And development in proximity to these core areas shall protect and respect the existing natural edges, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is very important land, and the development is bordering on very important land. With respect to supporting open space, these lands that are designated supporting open space are comprised of two interrelated ecological elements supporting vegetation communities and valley landforms. This is very important stuff. And going down to the zoning bylaw, it is Oak Ridges Moraine General Rural. Council Kim said settlement, but this is the true intention for this land. And it says here that no person shall use these lands, including expanding, enlarging, or otherwise altering any existing use, building, structure, for any other than a use legally that existed as of November 15th, 2001, sorry. So it's very, very restrictive what can go on these lands and the vicinity of these lands. And, you know, as I said, Mr. Givens spoke about intensification in this area. This is not an area for intensification. This is an area to respect the estate residential and that other SR1, which is also larger lot sizes. And the reason that is because we have to respect the function of the Oak Ridges Moraine. And we don't want to put too many homes on it that's going to perhaps interfere with the functioning of this land. So, you know, to me, I would not suggest sending it to a general committee. I think this should be denied outright at this public planning meeting. And the reason is that, well, listen, this is exactly what this council's been fighting against. We've been fighting to protect our official plan policies. We've been fighting against Premier Ford and his ideas to allow development in environmentally sensitive land.
You're over 5 minutes.
So this is not something that we should be doing as a council.
Thank you. Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I just had a couple questions through you to Mr. Waters. I'm looking at the existing official plan designation and the proposed, and while I'm looking at where the developer wants to build, it seems to me that he's not even encroaching at all in the core open area. And in fact, what I understand from this presentation is that the land that's on the north side, he's asking to actually designate, to actually make it more strict and to protect the environment even more by making it EPORM. Could you clarify that?
Mr. Waters?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Councilor Gilliland is correct. The area identified as an EP zone is what's currently in the official plan now. And the area to the south already has development rights, and that is what's being proposed for the residential development.
Councillor Gilliland?
And can you confirm, just based on the maps that I have here, that where the actual development area is versus what's actually existingly zoned is actually building on less of the land that is currently zoned for?
Mr. Waters?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe Mr. Given did communicate that to council, that there is some additional land that's been identified as an EP zone to the north.
Councillor Gilliland?
Thank you. So just my comment to what Councillor Gardner was saying is developing on open spaces. I don't really see any development happening on there, rather more protection or on the land itself. So I'm not quite understanding the change in the development in that area other than a positive, in the sense that we're actually allotting more protection. I'm just throwing that out there. I personally would like to see the homes that are being built a little bit larger than the 50, 60 foot lots. I feel that it is kind of small considering there's larger estate homes that are in and around that area, and I believe that it was specifically zoned for that reason. In the future, foreseeing that if it was going to be developed to be compatible with that neighborhood, hence why it is currently zoned, so you can currently build homes that are larger. So that would be what I'm more concerned about. But as far as what the mapping is, I don't see any environmental invasion to the map from one to the other being proposed.
Thank you, Councillor Gilliland. Any other comments or questions on this? Councillor Humphrey, you already spoke twice, so unless you're doing an amendment.
I was going to offer an amendment because I'm worried about what Councillor Thompson said earlier, and that this has already passed the appeal process, and I want us to continue to move forward to work on this in a positive way rather than it going. We've been there before where it slipped out of our hands, it's gone to the appeal board, and we've gotten worse or not. And I don't want to jeopardize that with the residents. I feel like we need to do that. I understand completely, Councillor Gardner, where you're coming from. I'm just really worried about it. And I do know that...
So you put an
so
amendment
can I
on
put
the floor?
I'd like to make this come to a GC. It doesn't mean anything's decided this evening, residents. There's nothing's been decided this evening. It just comes to
Councillor,
I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, you can speak after we put the amendment on the floor. So you would like to put an amendment for this to come back to a
general
future general committee?
Yes, please. I don't know if anyone's interested
Anyone
in
would like to
second.
second that? Councillor Kim. Councillor Humphreys, now you may speak to the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My apologies earlier. Again, I totally agree with a lot of Councillor Gardner's concerns. It is protected land, although there was some clarification on what can be built in the area. And of course, the developer did mention they're doing a little extra. Again, for me, if this shows that we're going to be working together and continue to work together and hopefully close the gaps in some of those concerns we talked about earlier, the concerns traffic on and safety issues on St. John's, some of the great work that was discussed tonight. I know that the mayor will look after that, and also to hopefully have these homes become more of an executive type lot in what I see around the area, which will also help with the environment in this land. And I know that was one of Councillor Gardner's biggest concerns, that the homes there will be of larger land that will help again with the environment in this area. So hopefully we can move forward to a GC. And just for the residents, if I can just add that again, nothing's been decided this evening. It just means that the next step is to go to a general council where we discuss again, we see where some of the progress being made, some of the asks tonight, and then that isn't even a decision. There's a further meeting after that where we make the final decisions. So I just think it's a safer way to go after hearing that we're past the appeal period. Thanks.
Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm referring to the report that we received, which has taken the trouble to talk about all of these areas, all of these designations which are in this area. The applicant is taking it from SR and SR1, which are these large lots, to SR2, which are much more dense. And they're taking the core area open space and supporting area open space and just taking it to core area open space. And as you will note in the report, the supporting area open space is given as a designation when there are two interrelated ecological elements supporting the vegetation communities in Valleyland. So we're taking away one of the protections that we've put in our official plan, perhaps through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Waters. So if we're taking away the supporting area open space, we're decreasing the protection in this land, of this land. Am I right or wrong on that?
Mr. Waters?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. In looking at the mapping at this point, it doesn't appear that there is a reduction. It may be just the translation of the official plan mapping that was done, probably 9 or 10 years ago in terms of what was there today and what is there today.
Thank you. And I don't think that important ecological elements change over time. I think they're probably still there today. I think that this is going to go to a general committee, although I will vote against it. So certainly for that general committee report, I would like to know what these two interrelated ecological elements are and why we are not talking in this proposal to protect those two, I'm assuming, important elements, or they wouldn't have been included. And the other thing is, it's an SR2, so much smaller lots. I think the intention of the report information was to show that this area is very sensitive, and this area that is being developed is very sensitive because it is surrounded by these core features and the supporting core features. So that is why it's relevant. It's whatever we do in this area, we need to be very careful about the effects it's going to have on the environment. And sometimes you don't know what those effects are going to be right away. But we are in a time in the world where we have to be super careful.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Through you to Mr. Waters. Mr. Waters, my understanding, so the application was submitted in 2018. We viewed it complete in June of 2018, but it never came to a public planning meeting. I assume partly because there were municipal elections and that also prevented it from coming. But I just want clarification that it never came before us last year.
Mr. Waters.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's my understanding.
Councillor.
Thank you. And so while I understand the intent of Councillor Gartner's view is to vote on this tonight and make a decision on the application one way or another, typically we've provided as a courtesy an opportunity for the applicant to listen to the concerns of the residents, listen to the concerns of those around the table, and amend their plans and find a solution that satisfies all. And that's typically how we've done it. And so I certainly would like to afford the applicant that opportunity. Obviously, I think that he's heard loud and clear the concerns and that this council has, and if there were no changes, I'm sure you can guess how this council would probably vote, but we would leave that for a general committee meeting. I also think that should we not wait and make that decision now, it may play out poorly with the local planning appeal tribunal, just because we didn't give him an opportunity to address those concerns. And so while I appreciate Councillor Gartner's viewpoint in making the decision now, I think that it's in our best interest to move to a GC and then make a decision at that time. Through you to Mr. Waters, any assumption of when it could come to a GC meeting?
Mr. Waters.
Through Mr. Mayor, there still appears to be a significant amount of work required to get to that point in time. And in addition, from the comments we've heard today, it'll probably extend the time with that we return to GC with a report. I could say the end of the year, but that may be somewhat optimistic, depending on the comments coming back and how we address the comments raised at tonight's meeting.
Councillor.
And just simply for the residents, you would all be notified the next time it would come to a meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I echo Councillor Thompson's analysis of allowing us to have the chance, or staff to have the chance to come back and assess what we've gone through with the public planning meeting today. Just looking at page 8 of the report, the analysis and the department agency comments, there's quite a grand list of concerns that will be in council's consideration, including much of what we have talked about today. And all your comments, I've taken notes, we've all taken notes, and they're all going to be under consideration. We hear you loud and clear. We feel what you're talking about. I think we need to allow us to move forward and go to a GC and make some decisions and to avoid that appeal. So I would be in favor of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gilliland. Any other comments? I'll just quickly state, I'm hearing the comments from around the table, and I think I'm and the residents and what they're saying, and there's a few concerns, and I think that it is our duty to give the opportunity for the applicant to hear those concerns, and for us to have staff work with them and look at how we can address those concerns and move forward in a win-win situation. It was mentioned about the provincial government and some of the changes that they're doing. This kind of speaks to it a little bit, because the changes that the provincial government has made with the Ontario Municipal Board, those changes came into effect. We had the authority at the time when we had the reform of the OMB. Now they've looked at taking back that authority and giving it back to another body that is unelected and unaccountable. But these are some of the reasons I think that this government has decided to move that forward, is because sometimes councils don't work with the applicants and look at trying to come to a compromise of what's best for the community and still allows the community to grow and evolve. And so I think it is our duty to look at how we can do this properly, address the concerns of our residents, ensure that our town grows in an appropriate manner and is not overdeveloped. We've heard loud and clear that, if some of the changes and some of those concerns aren't addressed, it probably won't pass at General Committee. Hopefully we can all work together and we can come to that compromise and we can find something that is suitable for our community and the applicant themselves as well. So I'm in favor of moving forward to General Committee, and as stated around the table, just for the public's notification, that this does not mean that the application is being approved. It just means that we're moving to the next stage, to the General Committee. And as I said, if those concerns aren't addressed, then that's when we would be making a decision, and you'll all be notified at that time. With that being said, I will call the vote on the amendment. That carries. So back to the main motion as amended. So I'll call a vote. No, it is the amendment. Madam Deputy Clerk? No, there will be next time.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So the motion on the floor was that it go to a future public planning meeting, and the motion was amended to replace public planning with General Committee. So it is allowed, it's not contrary.
Okay, Councillor? So I'll call the vote. That carries. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. Council, I know normally we'd go 9 o'clock to take the break, but I think we should take the break before we move into the second one. So I will call for a recess at this point. We have quorum. We have 4 of us. So, Madam Deputy Clerk, we are back. So we will start with the second application. So, Mr. Waters, second application.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Catherine Bibby, the town planner, will make a presentation on the planning framework for the proposal. And then I believe the planning consultant will then expand on the details of the development.
Thank you. Ms. Bibby?
Okay, so good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council and members of the public. My name's Catherine Bibby. I'm the planner on the file. The subject application is for a zoning bylaw amendment for the northeast quadrant of Wellington Street East and John West Way. So the proposal is to rezone the subject lands from the current zone of community commercial to second density apartment residential, and to revise the boundary of the environmental protection boundary. So the proposal is for a 6-story rental apartment building with 134 units, including a range of 1, 2, and 3-bedroom suites. Due to the introduction of fill to accommodate the development, cut and fill balance is required to ensure that the floodplain capacity is not affected by the application. Removal of soil on the east side of the watercourse will ensure that enough area is available. The rezoning also includes some standards, including reductions to the parking rate, the amount of amenity area to be provided, and reduced setback requirements. So to give us a little bit of context, I've got a location map which shows the subject site. To the north, we've got Town Hall, the Senior Center, the Holland River East Branch, and the Valley Lands run to the north and east of the site. There's a trail that runs through there. It's the Tim Jones Trail, Nikita Trail. To the south, we've got some commercial and employment uses, including the Hyundai dealership. And to the west, we've got some commercial plazas. So the application will be reviewed in accordance with the provincial, municipal policies that are on the slide. Included in that are the standard set that most applications will be reviewed, with the exception that this site is located within the Aurora Promenade, and so we'd be looking to those specific policies as well for this application. So this site is designated in our official plan as Aurora Promenade and Environmental Protection. We do have a site-specific policy number 40 that does apply, and this allows for certain site-specific requirements. Basically, the environmental constraints on the site have resulted in certain policies of the official plan not applying, and that certain development standards be implemented through the zoning bylaw amendment, and as well through the policies of the Town of Aurora's concept plan for the promenade. So as I mentioned, the existing zoning is community commercial exception 427 and environmental protection. The proposed zone would be for apartment residential, second density, and it'll be an exception zone with some site-specific development standards. The jagged line across the subject lands shows the revision of the environmental protection zone limits. This slide shows the subject property in the red, and the dashed black line shows the outline of the area being proposed for alteration to allow for the cut and fill balance between the two pieces of land. So the red area you'd be adding fill, and the dashed line you'd be removing fill to accommodate for that balance. The area of fill has approximately 5,600 square meters. This proposal is under review by town staff and by external agencies. The 6-story apartment building would be comprised of 134 units with a GFA of just over 15,000 square meters. 175 parking spaces are proposed. The entrance would be located on John West Way. As you can see on the conceptual site plan, there is what we call an urban square, which is a requirement from our official plan, at the primary entrance directly at the corner. The rooftop amenity area is available on the roof of the building. Site plan submission has not been made yet. The applicant will be submitting that after the first or second circulation of the zoning bylaw amendment. Just to give you some visuals, this shows the elevations, and you can see at the top, the north elevation, that's the corner of the site. And this shows the other sides of the proposed building. So some preliminary comments. This is at the beginning of the process. We've received one circulation, or one submission. It's been circulated once. We're looking at the one-story a bonusing provision. So we're reviewing potential for community benefits to be provided under Section 37 of the Planning Act. Currently, there are trail enhancements proposed to provide that community benefit. We're looking at comments from the town and the region in terms of the transportation study. We're getting a peer review of the urban design component. We're looking at the revisions to the amenity spaces that they're proposing. There's going to be a look at servicing capacity. LSRCA is currently reviewing the studies and will provide us some feedback. The other items on this slide are related to the site plan process. I just wanted to highlight those as the considerations that would be looked at as part of the site plan application. Of that, you know, there is a rock and a signage at the corner, so there would be some consideration to how that's gonna be relocated. Public comments have been received since the notice was placed in the papers. The comments are primarily related to environmental matters, to do with the floodplain, trees, wildlife, and the Aurora Community Arboretum, which is in proximity to the site. There are concerns about traffic off on John West Way. There have been some inquiries about whether affordable units will be available for seniors and whether it will be rental or condominium. So we'll take the information that we receive at today's meeting, and we will review it with the applicant and prepare a comprehensive report with recommendations that will be presented at a future GC meeting. Thanks very much, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Catherine. Now if we can have the applicant come forward. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. My name is Joanna Fast. I'm a planner with Evans Planning, and I'm here tonight on behalf of L&B Aurora, Inc. I'll be making a presentation this evening to summarize our development application and to answer any questions from council and the public. With me, I also have Ms. Amber Palmer from Stantec Consulting, who will be able to answer any technical questions from an engineering perspective. Catherine did a good job of summarizing the site, so I'll try to move along quickly. The site is currently vacant. It's covered with rough grasses, weeds, and shrubs. There's an area that is substantially treed up in the northeast portion of the site. The grade generally slopes downward in an easterly direction this way. This again is an air photo with the context overlaid for the area. So we have our site here outlined, and we're showing it in a dark orange color. It just shows the sort of higher density developments that are in the area. So we have our proposal. There are these 5- and 6-story apartments up here, and there's a 5-story mixed-use building in this area. And there is a proposal that's currently under review, I believe, for this site here, which proposes 10 stories. There's commercial that surrounds our site. There's an industrial area shown in the blue. The GO station is located right here. We have townhouses and semi-detached residential units located in this area. And there's the Holland Valley Trail, which is how it's described on Google, but it's also, I believe, noted that it's called the Tim Jones Trail or the Nokita Trail. This area extending up here all the way to St. John's Side Road and all the way down through here, ending at Wellington, is part of the Aurora Community Arboretum. That's an area that's dedicated to the planting and preservation of trees and shrubs, and also it's dedicated to the education of the public about these features. It should be noted that that organization does have a number of commemorative trees or tree plantings and benches throughout this system, but none of those are located in this area in here. The land use designation in the town's official plan, it's part of the Aurora Promenade, and it's designated Promenade General. This is the area where the town wants to see intensification. We're close to the GO station, and the goal is to transform this area into an active, pedestrian-friendly, mixed-use area. The site is zoned C4. It's a commercial zone with an exception. This was placed on the land in 2015 through a previous development application. This slide shows the Region of York's proposed major transit station area. The growth plan requires the region to identify these areas. It's generally within a 500-meter radius of a transit station. In this case, it's the GO station. The growth plan requires MTSAs near GO rail stations to be planned for a density of 150 residents and jobs per hectare. This figure has been provided to illustrate that, again, intensification is appropriate for this area. Catherine did an excellent job of summarizing our development or proposal and went over the elements of the site plan, so I'll keep this brief. We have the access proposed here off of John West Way, which aligns with the commercial plaza to the west. The main entrance to the building will be from the rear here, and the main pedestrian entrance will be from the front. This area in here has been designed as an urban square with decorative landscaping and architectural features. The building will be made up of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom suites, and residents will also have a games room, gymnasium, movie room, and other indoor and outdoor amenity areas, including a rooftop terrace in this location here. There's a green roof proposed in this area here. Due to the grade of the site, which slopes downwards to the rear of the site, the parking structure in this area will be cantilevered over top of the underground parking area. It's sort of open in a way. The Aurora Promenade has urban design guidelines for new developments that are proposed in this area. I'll go through a brief summary of the design guidelines that would apply to the site. So this is the east entryway to the Aurora Promenade. It's a key corner site. The building is a C shape, which will be set close to the roadway to define the streetscape and set the building away from the adjacent environmental features. An urban square is located at the intersection to enhance the pedestrian environment. The building elevation is softened by horizontal and vertical features and contains a base, middle, and top elements to provide visual definition. The parking is located at the rear of the building and will be screened from view. We believe that the proposal will create a defined entryway to the Aurora Promenade and will provide a positive example of residential intensification along Wellington Street. This slide shows a concept of our landscape plan. Generally, it just shows the rooftop amenity area, the green roof, and some plantings that will take place around the site. It shows the urban square at the corner. The site is partially located within the floodplain and requires some filling to bring the building up to street level. Most of the filling will take place in this area here where the building is proposed. In order to do the filling, we need to have a compensating cut on the opposite side of the valley. The filling of the site was partially initiated in 1990, but the work was not ever completed. In 2015, the application for the commercial plaza was approved for these lands, and at that time, the cut and fill analysis was approved for this site. It's generally the same. It's actually a little bit less than it was for the commercial plaza. The cut area on the opposite side of the valley is currently a cultural meadow with less than 10 trees located on it. This area will be restored with tree and wetland plantings, and in the end will represent a net gain to the environmental system. This slide shows our tree inventory and preservation plan. The trees in red are proposed to be removed, and the trees in green will be retained. You can see that there's only a handful of trees in this area here. Through our next submission, we'll be preparing detailed compensation plans, which will outline what species, how many will be planted in this area and on site. We would be happy to work with the Aurora Community Arboretum to discuss plantings, what would be appropriate in this area, have their opinion on what might be the best type of features to include in this area. Lastly, I just wanted to touch on stormwater management. The stormwater from the rooftop terrace and walkways, so that's on the roof here, will be directed to these 3 stormwater management detention tanks. And the stormwater from the parking areas will be directed to an oil grit separator for treatment, and then directed to the detention tanks. It's then outlet in a controlled fashion to this yellow area, which is a bioretention facility, which will temporarily store, treat, and infiltrate the water. We also have the green roof, as I mentioned before, which will retain the 5 millimeter rainfall event. And we have an infiltration trench in this area here, which will infiltrate the building's foundation drainage system. These measures will ensure that the same amount of water will be infiltrating into the ground as per the pre-development condition. I'd like to thank you, and I would be happy to answer any questions from council or the public.
Thank you. Now I'll open up the floor to the members of the public. Any members of the public like to come up? Come on up. I almost feel like The Price is Right. Come on down. No, I'm just joking. If I can get you to state your name, your address, and you have 5 minutes, ma'am.
Okay, Shayna Maislin, 69 Jasper Drive in Aurora. So I just want to say thank you, Mayor and Council. We all know where the demographics are heading, and to have a good rental property in Aurora that looks like this, I think will be absolutely fantastic. Many of us are downsizing. We live in Aurora currently. We have already downsized. We sold our home in that very same area and moved to the other side of Aurora on Jasper. We're renting there, but we've been waiting for a really nice, decent rental apartment, and we were very excited to see this in the Aurora banner. So I think that I just think it's a really positive thing. I think what they're offering, you know, everything that we're going to have within that apartment will be absolutely wonderful. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Oh, yeah. Whoever gets there first, the other one can go. The other one can go second. Thank you.
It's Keith Engel. I live at 180 John Westway. I have two major concerns here. The entrance to this new proposed building is opposite the Tim Hortons entranceway in that mall, little mall there. This is one of the one of the busiest intersections in town. And this proposal would mean a severe increase in the traffic in that area, which is already dangerous going in and out of there. I think if this plan does get passed, that the entranceway has to be moved somewhere else other than where it is. That's too heavy a traffic burden for that area. The other thing is that I can't understand how there's no environmental impact on transferring fill from one side of the river to the other. How will the river be protected? It's not clear yet, maybe it's too early, but I, for one, don't think that you can avoid an environmental impact to build this structure. I think it's a very sensitive area, and perhaps its use should be something else other than intensifying the population. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Welcome. I can get you to state your name, your address. You have 5 minutes.
Mark Wyeth, 7 Amber Hill Way. I back onto the Greenbelt, and I've lived there for 17 years. And I've seen this corner seems to, every few years, it either gets rezoned or changes developer. I wonder if that parcel of land is big enough to sustain, you know, a decent development property. I have concerns. The gentleman spoke eloquently. The traffic is pretty crazy. Trying to get off of Amber Hill onto John Westway is very difficult. Every once in a while, we do hear some horrendous accidents right at the corner of John Westway in Wellington. Also in the proposal, it looks like it's 6 stories. What's the light pollution going to be? What's the, you know, with 134 residents, you know, I just worry that, you know, we're so close to that area that it's, you know, when I first moved in, we used to see a lot of deer. We don't see a lot of deer anymore. Just concerned that, I understand the need for development, but I just wonder if we're trying to cram in too many units in such a small parcel of land. That's what I've got for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Welcome, sir. I can get your name, your address, and you have 5 minutes.
It's classified.
No. Then I can't let you speak. No, go ahead.
Name's Ron Maislin, 69 Jasper in Aurora. Just want to comment, as one of the other gentlemen said about the traffic going in and out. Going back to people downsizing, a lot of seniors are downsizing nowadays, such as my wife and I. And in regards to, you know, the traffic going in and out, yes, it's a busy corner, busy street because there's a Tim Hortons there and there's 2 buses on the opposite streets, Wellington and John Westway. Seniors are not the type of people that are driving everywhere and running in and out of condos and apartments, what have you. They're, in a lot of cases, they're very sort of quiet and peaceful. So I don't think the traffic going into that particular residential building will be that much of an issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, any other members of the public? Welcome. If I can get your name, your address. You have 5 minutes. ma'am.
Yevgenia Pokvalina. I live on 29 Amber Hill Way, so our backyard is facing the suggested area. So my thing is that we are trying, like the builder is trying to fit an elephant in a bathtub. There is a reason why this land was, like, there is nothing on it for so many years, because it's too small. The streets, Wellington is too narrow, like taking from Industrial Parkway to Young Street, it just like, it's, no matter what you did during those years, it's not getting any wider. The GO train station, which the applicant suggested that it's by law or by some government decision, is very great area to have apartment buildings around, but we should take each case separately, because there is no way we can fit it in there. It's way too many things happening on this intersection. You forget about the high school, nobody mentioned about it. The John West Way is just 2 lanes, and like the entrance across the entrance to the Tim Hortons, I don't see it happening. Even I saw in the newspaper they were suggesting to put either 3-way stop or even lights on the Amber Hill Way. It wouldn't help anything. Like, rush hours is killing time. GO train, when the train comes and they close the barrier, like Wellington stops. You cannot turn, lights, no lights, anything. So again, it's very, like, I have very many concerns about like this happening. Seniors, we have up this John West Way, we have seniors' house, we have 2 more condominiums, which are 154, I believe, suites each, and they're way more bigger than this suggested site. So my thing is, I'm thinking that we should develop it in some recreational area, probably, like maybe like to do a decent park or children's playground or something, but not a residential, like apartment building with 175 parking spaces. Like, I don't see it. I'm sorry. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Any other members of the public? Yep. Oh.
My name is Vadim Kotlyrenko. I am a resident of Aurora, Amber Hill Way, for 17 years. With all respect to the seniors, we have families and children. So a few years ago, I went to the town hall and asked, why guys, you wouldn't put the speed bumps on our street? Our kids playing right on the street. There is no playground, there is no room. Next, you want to cross the John West Way, there is no crosswalk. And I was told it's not in our plans. So, in my opinion, I've been a resident for a long time. I pay like $60,000 in taxes alone, and they not listen to us. Now, just imagine, we hear the train, we hear the trucks backing to the longest. There is no quiet area, and see our street, Amber Hill Way, 2 communities, a Sandalwood Trail and another community, all blocked, and they go over our street. So you cannot safely back up from your parking spot. And are you guys waiting for fatality, something happen? I'm just asking you, Mr. Mayor, to protect your citizens, stop selling our land. There is no way to fit this huge condo. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Welcome. If you can state your name and your address, and you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Cora Teixeira Bode, 27 Amber Hill Way, and I have to say I'm very delighted to see so many of my neighbors here this evening. I've lived in Aurora since 1998, when the population of this town was approximately half of what it is now. the school, the Tim Hortons. At night, if you have our windows open, you can hear the cars squealing, racing along John Westway. During the day, trying to get into the Tim Hortons parking lot at lunchtime, or in the morning, or in the afternoon, with the trains, the traffic coming from the GO station along John Westway, they come straight out. Traffic has become a nightmare in this town, and it never was. The second impact is the environmental impact. Those wetlands behind us are significant. If you lived there, you would see the amount of wildlife that we see on a daily basis. My mom spends a fortune on bird food. We see everything from red-winged blackbirds to cardinals to blue jays. The bird life back there is spectacular. Just recently, I got back from Europe, was lamenting the fact that we hardly see any deer or anything anymore, and who walked across the back of our yard was deer. So wildlife is there. They're hiding. When you build these high-density buildings, the construction alone sends them away. And it's like the former resident was talking about what happened on Leslie Road. The animals have nowhere to go. They don't have planning departments. They don't have citizens who take care of them and move them to new environments. These animals need some place to live, and their home is our home, and we have to share that space with them. The third issue I wish to address is the issue of the cut and fill. The cut where they're proposing to cut the soil and move it over, that affects all of our properties. And what will be done to shore up to ensure that our land is not eroded. The Holland River is a significant tributary that flows through that area. The environment needs to be protected. That specific area, and I appreciate the need for affordable housing for seniors and for all. That's not what we're opposed to. We're simply opposed to the fact that this particular land is special. It is environmentally special. It's special to us. When you stand in our backyards and you hear the birds singing their song and you see the leaves, you can hear the wind rustling through the rushes, that is something that people downtown Toronto have lost. And I think Aurora, one of the reasons that I tell everyone what a fabulous place Aurora is, and specifically that subdivision, Bayview-Wellington Lanes. When you come from a city, when you've worked in the city all day long, you've commuted sometimes 4 hours driving up and down highways, and you come home, it is a reprieve for us. And 134 or whatever number of apartments that are going to be built there, we all want affordable housing. That's not what we're speaking out against. What we're speaking out against is the use of these lands. These lands need to be protected. They're not just our homes, they're also the homes for the animals and the birds and whoever else. There are significant old trees back there. There's a willow tree that I'm aware of, and there's a bench that a lot of people go and rest and relax on. Although the recent incident in the trails, scares people. But at the very least, we still have that respite. That area for us, my backyard, is my haven. We live in townhomes. We're right packed up like sardines. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Yep. Welcome. If you can just state your name and your address, and you have
Good
5
evening.
minutes.
Tatiana Vasilieva. I'm a resident of 35 Amber Hill Way. So our properties are directly affected by this development because the cut area would be right on our backyard. And as the previous speakers were saying, I don't know, our backyards are already very sloped. If you will take land from there, I don't know what is it going to become out of this area and how long we will have backyards when they will start sliding there. And St. John, it's to get for me from Amber Hill, I have to commute to the city, but I chose this because of Aurora, because it's such a beautiful town, and because I can be safe here and I can be live in with the nature. And I'm willing to travel to Toronto for work, but now it looks like it comes to me right on my backyard. I understand the need for the housing. I work in property management, and I know how important housing is, but it also have to be put on the area that not reduce our level of life. And 6-story on this small corner, and with all due respect, it's not designated as seniors housing, so 2 and 3 bedroom apartments, it's families with the kids. To put kids in this area, it's dangerous. It's simply dangerous, because for me to get from Amber Hill Way to get to highway, we also had to be closer to highways. That's why we chose this area here. Now to get to highway, it take me half an hour because of all those high density developments on the Wellington. And to get from Amber Hill Way to turn, that's the only way for us to go to Wellington, and for everybody else from this area, and to go to highway. There is a Tim Hortons turn. There is a school that in the morning, in rush hour, parents are taking kids to turn to this area, the same right turn to, and then they have to turn left from the school, from Tim Hortons Plaza, and there will be 175 at least cars from other side that needs to be turned, and all goes to the same intersection, and there is a bus stop there also. So between school, Tim Hortons, 6-story building, and all the developments from up to get to Wellington, and then from this Wellington to get to highway or the other direction, it will be massive traffic, and we choose this area for the park, but I cannot send my son to the park because he have to cross St. John, and it's just impossible. Even though we live so close to park, I'm telling him to use this park behind our property because he doesn't have to cross it. Now this park will be taken away also by the development. And we have a wildlife there, a lot of wildlife, and that's what we love about it. A couple weeks ago, I saw the deer on my backyard. That was a miracle because for a few years we didn't see any. And when we live here for 13 years, and in the beginning there was a lot of them. Now it's a miracle, but it still happens. And I'm sorry, but I don't think that it will not affect the wildlife. You put so many people around, you just scaring them away. And if we need the rental housing, as we do, maybe we should not put so many house developments and put the rental housing on their place. Because right now it looks like it's just about the money. We need more money, and this area was changed, slowly was changed to come to this. So it was rezoned so many times. So please, help us to keep a level of life for everybody, and it's already 2 high-density areas along the Wellington. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Seeing none at this time. Actually, I only have one question for you, Mr. Waters. What will be done to shore up the cut and fill area?
The cut and fill, through you, Mr. Mayor, the cut and fill area will be addressed through the development application. That'll be in consultation with the LRCA. And I don't have an answer for you at this point, as it is still under review.
And that's all I had at that, unless you had any other that you pulled out.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there are a couple things I think I'll respond to. One is the comment about offsetting the intersections with the plaza across the street. That is something that we try to avoid doing. because then you have jogging happening, you have movements happening all over the place. So the best place to locate the intersection is opposite another intersection, which is why it's been placed in that location. In terms of the traffic on Amber Hill, council has directed us, or actually on the John West, council has directed us to review the traffic flow at the moment and to determine what's the best way to control it, whether it's through stop signs or through a crosswalk or a light or what have you. But we're going to look at that and report back. And then the other issue was raised was the whole planning around the GO station. And these lands are part of the Aurora Promenade. They do have development rights for mixed use at the moment and have been in that way for probably close to 9 or 10 years. So it does provide for a mixed use development, including residential apartments. The direction from the province is that intensification is to occur within the MTSA boundaries. And at the moment, these lands have been proposed to be included as part of that MTSA boundary by the region of York.
Thank you, Mr. Waters. I'll ask the members, unless the applicant wants to respond to any questions that came up. Do you have, and I'll just ask you, do you have any idea at this moment how you'd be shoring up the cut and fill line?
I can ask our engineer who's here tonight if she can respond to that.
Sure.
Can you bring her down?
Yeah, I think we would all appreciate hearing that. Welcome.
Well, thank you. Good evening, Mayor, councillors, and local residents. My name is Amber Palmer, and I'm from Stantec Consulting, and I'm one of the engineers on the file. So the proposed cut and fill activities in the area, it is intended to be a very gentle grading exercise. To give you some context as well, a very similar grading exercise to what we're proposing for this specific application was made to the LSRCA back in 1990. That application was approved and permitted. The full grading exercise was not completed at that time, and I would say about 50% of the cut area was completed and 50% of the fill area was completed. Back in around 2011, we did a survey of the area to verify how much cut and fill had been completed to determine whether or not additional work could be completed under the initial application, and it was agreed through staff that that was the case. So what we're proposing is very consistent with what was initially proposed for this area. The cut is intended to be very minor, in particular near the water course, and you almost want to think of it as a wedge where off of the fences across Amber, is it Amber Leeway?
Amber Hill.
Sorry, Amber Hill, I should know that. There is a separation from the current fence limit, and then we do a 3-to-1 slope, which is considered a stable slope that is used for geotechnical purposes. And then from there, it is a gentle slope of 1% to 2% all the way until we match existing grade. So it is meant to be a very naturalized, gentle grading for the area so that it's appropriate for a valley land condition, and it's also not prone to erosion or any issues from the waterway during a flood event. And then on the applicant side, the grading again is quite gentle near the water course, and then it's pretty vertical under the building. So we tried with this current application to reduce the cut area and to minimize the fill.
Good, thank you.
All intents are to make sure that we are preserving the natural environment area and having as little impact on the adjacent residents as possible.
Thank you. So I'll ask her if there are any members of the public that would like to come up and speak for a second time. Come on. If I can just get you to state your name again and your address.
Yeah, Keith Ingo, 180 John Westway. One of the gentlemen indicated that seniors don't contribute very much to the traffic here, and I'd like to point out to him that the senior center just right next door is an extremely busy venture, and there is a seniors total residence up the street, within 2 doors, and there are 2 condominiums that are largely occupied by seniors. So the senior safety is also a big item. And I really, and the other item is, I just can't believe that you can move the earth the way they say they are in a water plane like exists down there. Can be done without harming any of the environment, let alone the birds and other animals that might be in that area. So I think something that happened 30 years ago, as the engineer mentioned, shouldn't apply in today's terms. This is a different world, and I think we have to be more careful about the environment.
Thank you, sir. Any other members of the public? Welcome. If I can just get you to state your name again and your address, please.
Yevgenia Pokvalina, 29 Amber Hill Way. So you had said that you will address the traffic issue and you will study it, but you should make a comment there that now it's summertime, so school is done, and for 2 months we will have a little relief from the traffic. Not too much, but we will have it, so you need to take it in consideration. Secondly, if the suggested entrance to that residential building will be across the Tim Hortons, still, my thinking is that 90 or even 95% of the cars going out of the residence will go left, which is they will have to wait until a gap, and there is no gap ever. Like there, unless it's like probably nighttime or it's like a time between rush hours, so I don't see it happening. Nobody will go up the street, everyone goes down the street. So there is no way. And then to put a light there, like within how many, like 20 meters of another intersection? Not likely, no. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Can I get you to state your name again and your address, please?
Mark Wise, 7 Amber Hill Way. I just wonder about the garbage facilities, 134, 100 and, who knows how many people. What kind of protections are there against outdoor garbage facilities? There is some sort of mechanism in place by the developer for water runoff to be captured, filtered. Whose responsibility is to kind of ensure that that's done properly? We're right next to the watershed, so is there any leakage possible? So those are just a few additional questions.
Thank you. So, any other members of the public? Did you want to answer those 2 questions? Thank you. So one's about the garbage facilities on site, and the other one is about the water runoff.
So the garbage facilities on site will be in the building. Generally in this area here. And then the garbage truck will come in, pick it up in this area, make like a T-turn here, and then come back out. So there will be no outdoor storage of garbage. The water filtering, that'll have to be addressed through our technical submission. I'm not sure whether any monitoring can be in place, but all of our technical studies will have to be done to prove that we're not harming the environment in any way. Regarding the environmental impact, when we're actually doing the site works, we're not permitted to do them during nesting or breeding season. So they'll be conducted at off times. And in the end, we are required to have a net gain by the LSRCA, so they're going to be requiring us to improve this system. It's actually, although it's very beautiful, it's actually considered like a lower quality system. There's a lot of invasive species, the Scots pine and the buckthorn. So we're actually going to be replanting in that cut area. We're going to be using native species. We're going to be planting, for the compensation just for the removal of the trees, 158 new trees, and also wetland species in that area. And that's not including the compensation that we have to do for this cut and fill. Regarding the access, we can't move it to Wellington Street. We originally came in with a right-in, right-out access, and the region turned it down. They don't want to see any accesses on the regional road. They want to move traffic. So we only have the one access point across from the commercial plaza that's lined up. Is the site big enough to sustain the development? That's what our technical studies were submitted to prove, and that's undergoing review now. So through the review, the circulation through your peer reviewers, the LSRCA, the town departments, we hope to prove that this is technically feasible. The lighting on the site, we will be submitting a site plan application likely in the fall, and we'll have to demonstrate that the lighting on site does not spill onto other properties, so it'll be all contained within the site. With respect to the downsizing comment, yes, that is who we're planning on targeting. We're targeting seniors who want to move out of their houses and into a building like this. Let's see here. Regarding the parking, the official plan actually calls for a minimum of 1 space per unit, and we're actually above what the official plan calls for. Since this is an intensification area, they do expect people to take public transit. And actually, the York Region Transit is improving services in this area, phasing it in through up to 2027. They're improving it from 55-minute intervals to 15-minute intervals. So they're also anticipating that intensification is coming to this area. Let's see if there's anything else here. No, I think everything else has been satisfactorily addressed, so if there's any other questions,
Thank you.
I'd be happy to answer them.
Any members? Come on down. Welcome. If you could state your name and your address, and you have 5 minutes.
Andrei Zibarev, 75 Sandalwood Court. The idea is not bad. Actually, I like the idea to build some apartment building, but probably this area is not the best for this. The density of this corner, Wellington and another one.
John Westway.
Precisely.
Yes.
Thank you. Tim Hortons on one side. I walk through this area on a daily basis. So it's especially between 6 and 9 o'clock is absolutely busy place. Now, other residents, Amber Hill also reconfirmed it's very busy intersection on Amber Hill and
Amber Hill, yes.
In other words, thank you. It's very difficult to get out at any time. So then the question will be, have anybody considered a different area to build any apartment buildings? Not just this corner. What about Wellington and Bayview? What a great place. Build 1,000-story building there. What a nice place. Nobody will be affected. Now, another comment I'd like to make. Some of the questions, especially about waste management facilities, nobody seems to be able to answer any questions for some reason. We would like to hear how waste management facilities will be built, sewage, how the sewage will be functioning in this corner. I'd like to hear the answers. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Welcome. If I can get you to state your name, your address, you have 5 minutes.
Hi, my name is Artur Vasilyev, 35 Amber Hill Way. All my neighbors talking about traffic. It's true, but and the builder says, okay, 275 parking, and we're trying to get people just to use the public transportation. It's never going to happen. 135 apartments, it's like 2 adults. Right now, I'm driving a lot. I see from this area, from the north to the south, lots of traffic every time in the car, 1 person. So it should be lots of cars. It's the first thing. Second, let's keep that zoning commercial one. It's more likely for us, for Aurora. Because in that corner, it's not right position for the kind of building. Maybe it's affordable for some people. How many cars you have? 2. And they low budget family. Okay, maybe. But relocate somewhere else that building. We have lots of commercial spaces right beside the GO station, which we can destroy. It's a couple of restaurants, supplies, heat supply. It's lots of areas where we can put a building like that, but not that busy intersection. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? I'm seeing none. I will close the public portion of the meeting. Council, if you have any comments or questions for the applicant. Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to know about the parking lot, and if it was, because it's not really specific on here, when you're cutting and filling, is the parking lot going to be the main level, or is it going to be a different grade and then underground?
So generally, the parking lot will be at grade level with, say, Wellington Street and John West Way, but because of the sloping grade, there is an underground section that will be open. That's underneath, just because of the grade.
Perfect. Okay.
You might as well stay up here because I got a list of councillors that want to ask you questions. Councillor Gilliland, continue.
Thank you. Thank you. The other question I had was the transportation of the cut and fill. One of the residents had asked what the plan was to move the cut and fill with minimal impact. Did you have a plan for that?
Let me see here. You can sort of see the plan here. There's an access that's going to be off of Wellington. It'll be a temporary access. There's actually already an access there that was used for the development to the east. So we will be temporarily accessing that cut area through that location.
Councillor?
Perfect. Another question I had was you talk about this urban square in the corner, and I was just wondering what that intended use of space was for.
It's a public space. It's meant to activate the streetscape. There will be enhanced landscaping, plantings, maybe an arbor or trellis of sorts. We haven't made our detailed site plan submission yet, so we're showing it just conceptually on the site plan, but through our next submission, which we plan to make after we receive the first round of comments, it will be more detailed through a landscape plan.
Councillor?
Perfect. Just you answered a lot of questions previously, so I'm trying to find the ones that weren't. The 10 trees that are in question on that back property, and I know it's very minimal, but I guess I do want to know what types of trees as far as like the age. Are they? Someone was talking about willows being back there. I don't know if is that one of the ones that we're talking about? Or?
I don't know. I'd have to pull out our tree inventory.
As far as like the net gain, was there a certain percentage that you would say would be accurate for the net gain of the environmental, I guess, addition that you guys would be putting on top of this land? I
think one of the numbers that was in our report was the wetland area was 500 square meters, and we're going to be making it 2,000 square meters in that area with wetland plantings and things. It's not going to be like wet, but it's going to be, that whole area is in a valley, so it can support wetland plantings. And then in terms of the replanting of the trees, I know for our inventory, we're replacing them with 158 trees as compensation, and there will be other compensation plantings required as well.
Councillor?
Thank you. I just had a question for Mr. Waters.
That's during our deliberations.
Okay, maybe she could answer it.
You can ask the applicant if you'd like. Through the chair.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just going to step back now just about the proposed access way, and I'm just looking at the drawing now, and I'm just wondering what kind of environmental impact plan have you, what's the question I'm trying to ask? Just going in and out and just the existing nature that's there. How are you going to address the existing, why can't I say this right? The existing trees and wildlife there. How are you going to address what's there to protect them so they're not being disturbed? I heard you saying something about nesting season, that you're going to avoid that, but if you could be a little more detailed, that would be great.
Yeah, it wouldn't be during nesting or breeding season. There would obviously be protections in place for erosion and sediment control. All of that will be outlined in our next submission. Right now, this is more conceptual.
Yeah.
So I don't have all the answers at this moment.
Yeah, I thought so. Okay,
Councillor?
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner?
Thank you. I'm looking at there's 4 pictures. It's our page 15, it's figure 6.
Oh, could I grab these stuff?
I'd like to look at figure 5 and figure 6, please.
And this is a question for the applicant?
Yeah.
Councillor? Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead, Councillor.
So where,
Through the chair?
through you, Mr. Mayor, so the square and entrance to the building is going to be on that corner?
Yes.
Of John was, I mean, I don't know if it's a curved corner right now, but so where on figure 6, where are we showing that?
Let me see. It was
The entrance to the building and
it was in Catherine's presentation. I'm not sure if we can pull that up. I don't have it.
Councillor, I can answer that for you. It's on the third diagram, the third picture down, and it's at the right-hand side of it. And then on the top one, it's on the left-hand side.
Yeah, it's that sort of
So it's
arched.
a canopy?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So as the site plan is proposed at the moment, that entrance is recessed?
Yes, it's the building is sort of recessed in a C shape of sorts, and it's brought back a little bit from the corner to provide that urban square.
Thank you very
Councillor?
much. Thank you very much. Could you explain what you were saying about 500 square meters of wetland is going to 2,000 square meters of wetland?
Yes, through our compensation, our ecologist has identified that a wetland area in the cut area would represent about 2,000 square meters.
Oh,
in
so
area.
so you're going to try and extend the wetland area
Yeah.
to the but there's a meadow there right now.
I'm not exactly sure of the full extent, but it is within that area, and it is generally low-lying.
Councillor?
It can support that type of planting.
Thank you. That's all for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Humphreys.
Right, thank
May I
you.
remind council, questions
Short.
through the chair.
Absolutely.
Through the chair. Thank you.
Through Mr. Mayor,
We're very
always.
strict on procedure around here.
I believe that absolutely, Mr. Mayor. It's etiquette as well. So through you, Mr. Mayor, if I ever do that, slap my hand. Thank you. Through Mr. Mayor, thank you very much for presenting. And so just a couple of things. Many of my questions were answered, but there was a question earlier about garbage recycling. Do you have a plan for that? Is it an outdoor type recycling garbage area, or is it indoor? Would love to know about your plans for that.
Yes, it's an indoor facility.
Perfect.
It would be on garbage day. the bin would just be sort of wheeled
Pushed
out
out.
the door. They pick it up with the forks, and then they head on out.
Perfect. That's great. That's a big deal for sure.
Thank you.
To you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes?
The urban square, it's for me, it's very important because we've gone through a few iterations of what can happen on this site, and obviously the residents are quite aware of that. Through you, Mr. Mayor, your urban square with what we're planning on doing, I'll be really interested in looking closely at that piece. It is the entrance into, into our town and into the town hall, and it really will be a significant feature. So, the more you can, realize it the way you have it somewhat now, and some other really unique features, something that may bring back Aurora, like something old Aurora as well, incorporate if there's anything you can think of artistically, or maybe some art, some type of artwork. There's some really wonderful things you can do that I think would really enhance that. And I love that they're rental units. I'm really excited about that. We need this. We need this badly in town, and I'm very happy about that. The one last other thing I think was answered. Oh, actually, maybe not for you. It's for staff. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm done.
Thank you, Councillor Humphries. Councillor Gardner for a second time.
Thank you. I forgot to ask about snow removal.
Through the chair.
Ooh.
I'm going to be picky on the procedure tonight.
Excusez-moi. Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Through our site plan submission, we'll have to detail areas for snow storage. So I don't have that information at this time, but we will have to outline how snow removal will be taken care of through our site plan submission.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor?
I'm looking forward to coming and seeing the garbage truck do the T-turn.
I think in our
I've never
traffic
seen-
analysis, we had, the truck turning diagram.
It'll be interesting.
Councillor?
And you're sure these are going to be rentals?
Yes, that's what we're aiming for.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you very much. So, Council, someone like to put a motion on the floor? Councillor Humphries?
Recommendation?
Staff recommendation, second. Councillor Kim? Comments or questions? Councillor Humphries?
Dear Mr. Mayor, for staff, I know that we talked a lot about safety and tonight, but just to reiterate that staff will be looking at a further traffic study based on the motion through Councillor Gilliland and the mayor put forth in terms of safety. Just wanted to confirm that that will address this building in particular as well, or the addition of it.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that is an independent review that's ongoing by staff. We will, through the review, look at the development on this site as part of the review.
Councillor?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to make a comment for the residents that if you're interested in some of the safety concerns on John West Way, that both the mayor and Councillor Gilliland have a lot of information on the motion. It'll talk about your concerns you expressed tonight, and they've got some great points that you may want to look at. So if you're on social media, you'll see some great information there. So hopefully those concerns on safety will be, you'll know that the staff's working on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I share all of the concerns that the residents have expressed tonight. I could go through them, but you've mentioned them. I think you've been very articulate, and I thank you for coming. With respect to the cut and fill, I'm very concerned about the cut and fill. The approval given in 1990 was given in a whole different world. That was 30 years ago, and now we have climate change and predictions of severe rains and flooding, and I don't know if Lake Simcoe is going to have another look at this. I think I saw somewhere in here that they have to approve this. To me, it's very, very concerning, and I also don't like that the meadowland is going to be removed, because the meadowland is important. this is zoned commercial. We're changing it to residential, and apparently somebody thinks this is funny, but it's this is a really serious thing. This is 6 stories in this tiny little area that has the only proposals we've had are for 1 story. We had a 1-story plaza. We've had, in my experience, 2 different proposals here for 1-story structures, and to put a 6-story structure here, I think it's so inappropriate. And I want rental housing. I doubt if this is going to be affordable rental housing. I told the planner she wasn't going to like me. But I mean, it's to me, this is all crazy. I've been through all of the iterations, including not wanting to have a driving school here because of the traffic problems it could cause. And I know that I have tried to get out, before I come to a council meeting, I have tried to get out of that exit at Tim Hortons, and I'm turning left. It's a wait. I mean, you have to be patient. It's life, but it's already busy, and I haven't seen it not busy, but I would expect morning and afternoon would be, coming home from work time would be the busiest times, and that's probably going to be the busiest time for the whole area. Anyway, I'm not pleased about the reduction in amenity space, or I'm not pleased that the amenity space will not be interior amenity space, because we've already reduced our amenity space requirements over the years, and in the winter we need indoor amenity space. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Waters, what does it mean to go from half the height of the main building, and in no cases less than 6 meters, I'm talking about interior side yard on page 6, to go to 16 meters as an exception zone? That's 52 feet. I don't really understand why there is an exception zone, or what was the purpose of asking for this exception zone?
Mr. Waters?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, my understanding is the exception zone is to accommodate the building as proposed.
Councillor?
So, hold on a second. The parent zone is for row housing.
Mm-hmm.
We're going from a parent zone of row housing to an apartment? Why not from an apartment zone to, why are we not using apartment zoning?
Through you, Chair, if I
Yes,
might just
Miss
interject.
Bibby, yes, please, go ahead.
That was a typo, that row housing item, so I'd just like to say for the record that can just be removed.
Great.
And just, if I may, through you, Chair, say that with respect to the interior side yard, the proposal is actually above the standard.
Right.
So they're just providing the specific dimensions, and I just want to let you know that it's meeting and exceeding the minimum.
I figured that
Thanks,
out,
Ms.
that was,
Bibby.
which is why I couldn't figure out why it would be
Yes.
an exception.
Councillor?
The same thing for the exterior side yard, 9 meters to 3.3 meters. Exterior side yard, does that mean right next to the street? Through you, Mr. Mayor, to...
Ms. Bibby, did you
someone?
want to answer that one?
Yes, that's correct. Yes, and it would be a reduction of approximately 5.7 meters from the parent zone.
So that means it's going to
Counselor?
be 10 meters to the street?
I'm not following where the 10 meters comes from.
Half the height
Wouldn't
of
be
the
10
building,
meters,
and
10
in no
feet.
cases less than 2 meters exterior side. Anyway, thank you, but it's it's pretty close to the street, however you look at it. Anyway, I'm very interested to know what Lake Simcoe says about the cut and fill 29 years later. And I guess, obviously, I'm going to vote against this.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kim?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, all the comments made by residents are valid and very good concerns. I think in the report, I'm in favor of moving this forward to GC with the report recommendation. Staff has identified very similar concerns that residents have brought forward, some of them, and things like the analysis and calculation of available servicing capacity, transportation study, the cut and fill, LSRCA, Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority will also be doing further reviews. So those results will be coming to GC, and so I think we're going to have some more answers there. I think there's sufficient information here to move this to GC, and I know we've heard comments that it'd be great to leave this as the green space, but as we know, it's already commercial, and the amendment here is to move to to allow for apartment rentals. So that's not possible. We were told that this is promenade land. It's part of the MTCA, the hub, and that's part of the regional and the provincial plan, and that's something that we can't ignore. And it's under any appeals process, we would lose in a heartbeat. So we can't stop this development, but we can certainly ensure that it's built to proper code and standards. And so we have to move to GC and wait for the final results of the other peer reviews and the reports. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. Any other comments or questions? So, I find this a little bit similar to the last one we dealt with. We're going to move it forward to a GC. It doesn't mean that we're making any decisions tonight. I think that there are some concerns, some major concerns. We've all gone to try to go get some coffee at that Tim Hortons there, and we all know how hard it is to get out and how crazy the traffic can be in that area. I've never met in my time sitting at this table, whether as a councillor or now as a mayor, where I've seen a traffic study come back and saying that we have issues with the traffic. They all say the traffic is great, it can handle it, it's not a problem. I have some concerns there. I'd like to see some more done. I'm not sure what we can do, but as mentioned, Councillor Gilliland had a motion that was approved at council to look at options at possibly putting a three-way stop sign at Amber Hill to help slow down the traffic in the area. I would encourage looking at possibly adding a four-way stop sign at Evelyn Buck Lane as well in John West Way to help mitigate that traffic within the area. So there's some things that we are looking at. Hopefully they come to fruition and we can start to solve some of those problems with the traffic. Some of the other things I have issues with, obviously I think everyone knows that I'm probably going to speak to the height. Within the plan, it speaks to five stories with a bonus of 1. The bonusing provision for an additional height under Section 37 of the Planning Act or the new community benefit charges is when there's a benefit to the community. I'm looking through this application. I don't necessarily see that benefit to warrant giving a bonusing provision for that additional height. So, quite frankly, without that community benefit, I would be absolutely against a 6-story building at that corner. Obviously, you're within your rights to come back at 5 stories. I'd be willing to have that conversation for the 5-story building, but at 6 stories, I'm against it. The garbage facilities, we heard a lot of questions about the garbage facilities and other concerns, those things that would come through site plan application. And so, we'll see if we get there, those discussions. Lake Simcoe, 100%. I want to hear what they have to say about the cut and fill, the changes. Councillor Gardner, you sit on Lake Simcoe. Obviously, you can possibly bring this up and have some more in-depth conversation before it actually gets back to us. So I'm hoping we can, and I know that it sometimes can be a struggle to get. Yeah, but I'd like to, that we can at least be there and we can have some conversation. So I want to hear what they have to say as well. And so when we get all that information and we come back to General Committee, that's when we can make a decision, whether it's the right thing for the community or not, whether it's being overdeveloped, whether it's appropriate. And so similar to the last one, let's give the opportunity for the applicant to work with staff, work with the residents, try to alleviate some of those concerns. And if those concerns aren't met, you know, for me, like I said, if that building comes back, if this proposal comes back and it looks exactly the same way it is, well, then my vote will be a no at that time. But right now, to move forward to general committee, as we said in the last one, we have a legal obligation to move the application forward and make a decision. And so we're not making a decision tonight, but hopefully when it comes back to us, we can make a decision and it's in the best interest of our community. So with that being said, I will call the vote. And that carries. And so just for the members of the public, if you want to stay interested, you'll be notified if you haven't filled out one of the green sheets, and you'll be notified when this comes to general committee, and you'll have an opportunity to speak as a delegation if you'd like to put forward to be a delegate at that time. Council, confirming bylaw. Someone like to move that? Councillor Humphreys, Councillor Kim, second. I'll call the vote. That carries. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Councillor Gilliland, Councillor Kim, all those in favor, just put up your hands. Opposed? That carries. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.